This conference will now be recorded.
Staff or else it might have been college.
Yeah, it might have been college. He's representing some group. I've seen him before.
He looks familiar.
He was really very vicious. They must want to style it up a little bit. It's too bad. And I'm just going to talk to him after. Try to understand what was going on. There's the last 3 goals we've seen. Other shots. I think your guys are studying
well, John used to be the mechanic, so he could tell us.
Mine we used to. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
If there's not going to motor up, place motor. I understand. That's right. Oh, he's yeah. You'll be able to figure out a way to get it out.
I would.
I remember when we built that gold cars in your dad's garage. Chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
Well, outperforms briggs and straps.
Snappier.
That would be our whole payment for the year.
I'm waiting on your clock.
Oh. 759. Yeah. It's freezing in here.
Perfect. Okay. Welcome everyone. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everyone for coming. Randall is not with us today, so you got to put up with me. First order of business will be to approve the agenda, and Bruce, you gave us some changes, correct?
Yes, to clarify, Mr. Chairman, at 8 o'clock, I do not have the Sturgis ambulance agreement yet, but what I do have is the Monument Health or the Lee Deadwood agreement and the Spearfish ambulance agreement, so you can note that accordingly. The 945 consideration of the Powder House Pass CID order of annexation is to be taken up instead at a public hearing on November 22nd at probably 9 o'clock. So that item will be off for today. And I want to note that there will be some discussion later on at 9:40, at 10 o'clock regarding Spearfish Mountain Ranch and I think their letter of credit. And that discussion comes in conjunction with a plat that was previously approved back on November 9th of 2021. And I think they either had to complete their infrastructure requirements or bond. I think they've gotten some of their infrastructure requirements in, but have some remaining. So they will be bonding for the balance. Amber will describe that more in more detail when she comes.
Okay, what's your pleasure on the agenda?
Motion approved with amendments. Second.
Okay, a motion to approve. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
I apologize. I have an ear infection, so I can't hear very well. You said the Powder House Pass stuff is being rescheduled?
Only part of it. Only the annexation part of it. The other parts are still on.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any conflicts, Randy?
Yeah, I do have one.
Commissioner Diver, excuse me.
This Service Mountain Ranch would be a conflict. Is there anything on, I thought it was on here from the Cheyenne Crossing?
Yes.
Yes.
I might have a conflict there.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none. How about our regular minutes as well as our Board of Adjustment minutes from October 11th?
Move to approve as presented. Great job. Best minutes in the county.
Both sets?
Yes.
I'll second that since you stole my motion. That's the job of this.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking he was a jerk.
Okay.
They're fighting over you, Brenda. That's a good thing.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes and the Board of Adjustment minutes. All those in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Personnel, Ms. Brenda.
I have one, a new hire, Blaze Eagle Horse. Will be a correction officer 2, grade 1, base pay of $21.46 as a full-time permanent employee effective 10/25 of 2022.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on approval. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have, Jim.
That's it. Travel requests?
Everyone.
Okay, discussion on the 2023 employee insurance renewal. Bruce, you got that?
I'll start it maybe. So we handed out, I think this morning and last night, some information regarding the insurance for, so we'll get the, yeah, bills.
Yeah, let's do the bills first. Sorry, Ray. Any questions on the bills? I've got mine have been answered.
This is our first bond redemption.
This is the whole payment for the year. This is the second. We did interest in June and now this is interest in the principal payment for
2022 or 2020?
2022.
So about this time next year.
Every,
we'll
yeah,
have the same
we'll have 2 payments every year.
1.8
Yep.
million. And then, I mean, Mr. Chairman, the, on the highway department, the Simons one is one that close out, so on the chip seal.
What's the-
77,000.
I think that's the only one they have for us, so it's
How
on,
much it is.
Yeah, it's 3990, or excuse me, 3980 for $77,082. Just want to verify which one.
That's it. Yep. So looks like it's for some gravel. Well, it's like road and bridge supplies for October gravel, and then some an additional amount of gravel a couple days later. And we have a list of all the different roads.
Okay, so this is out of this. Okay, a bit.
Looks like it's from the cost pit.
Might be from other pits too. Yeah.
So it's like they're all from the cost, all from the cost pit.
So it's gravel and chip seal. Thank you. Move to approve as presented.
second. Okay, we have a motion second for approval of the minutes. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Now the insurance, please.
So we handed out some information. We got the final documents yesterday afternoon. If you have it in front of you, this last sheet would probably be the most helpful one to reference. It's sort of a summary of the current plan and the proposed revised changes. So in context, now I'll defer to Brenda at 8.2 for input. And if anybody else is here from the insurance committee, Deb is here and Sheriff is here as well. You had 10% budgeted for potential increase in health insurance. The renewal came in, it was a 10.0.
10.14.
So over 10%. So the objective of the insurance committee was to get it below budget. And what the insurance committee did in order to accomplish that was the first step was to change the RX plan. That in and of itself would have lowered the premium below the 10%, I believe. And to generally give that a description of that. So what we would propose is to go to a different prescription plan, the Blue RX Value Plus, and the main feature of that is that it requires employees to go and try a generic drug first. And if it doesn't work, then they can hopefully switch to something else, to a name brand drug. But there's quite a bit of savings involved in that. Our employees historically have been very good about using generic drugs. We've encouraged that because it has offered premium savings in the past, but that's sort of one feature. And also what we're proposing is to raise the office visit copay from $25 to $35. That would apply to not normally the normal doctor, but also I think to any of the specialists. We kept that consistent. That has probably not been increased in quite some time. The other thing you'll note is an increase in the emergency room copay from $150 to $200. And also I guess the urgent care would go up from 25 to 35 as well. So with all of those additions built in, the increase was it 8.11? It came out just a little over 8% increase instead of just a little over 10%. So in other words, the takeaway probably is it's under budget. And for those reasons, the insurance committee has met twice. I think would unanimously recommend that you would allow the chairman to authorize the documents accordingly for the renewal.
We need to vote on it.
Yes.
And that would take effect the first of the year.
Yes. If I can, the insurance folks that came here, they had their computer and they were able to model a number of different scenarios. And so I think we probably spent an hour and a half or 2 hours modeling different scenarios, different alternatives to try to come up with a package that we have presented here today. It seemed like the best.
Tried 15 different things, putting in like 15 different scenarios, trying to come up to protect our employees, but yet try to get the budget, get the amount down.
Make a motion to follow recommendation. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the insurance. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank the group for all their hard work on that. It's still an act.
Thank you all very much.
All right, I guess we do have some ambulance agreements to look at.
We have the Monument Health Deadwood Hospital ambulance agreement, and then also the Spearfish ambulance agreement. Those will be for 2023.
Any changes from last year?
Nope.
Motion to allow the chairman to sign both.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second for signature on the ambulance agreement. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I did notice as a note, I did see that Meade County had voted to approve the ambulance service of the county. That was back last week in the paper, I think.
Just waiting to get it.
Yeah, it was in the minutes that they approved servicing our area.
Thank you.
That's
2023 County Commission meeting schedule.
Mr. Chairman, you had a copy in your packet. Again, it's the same one from the last meeting that you discussed. So for your consideration would be if you're prepared today, it doesn't need to happen today to approve the schedule. Again, noteworthy probably is the proposal of a second meeting in February if you want to do that. Same is true for a potential second meeting in August.
Okay, we could certainly have time to wait till we have a full board if you gentlemen want to do that and act on it next meeting or so. We've got another meeting next Tuesday, by the way.
November 1st is the next commission meeting for everybody, and then the 11th and the 22nd.
Commissioner Flanagan.
Well, there's been times in years past we've needed those second meetings. There's been times in years past where we haven't. I would suggest not having those second meetings unless we know we need them and just approving it the way it would normally go.
Commissioner Flanagan.
I agree. It's at our discretion, or the chairman's discretion to set those if we need them. So I think it's appropriate to move forward with what we have as our basis.
Sure. Commissioner Sleep.
I agree.
Motion to approve the 2023 Lawrence County Commission meeting schedule with only one meeting in February and only one meeting in August, but of course reserving the right and discretion chairman to add extra meetings as we need or see fit.
Second, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
I am responding subscription agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you defer to Paul Geese here to discuss that with you, I think. I think the agreement is basically the same as it's been, the same amount. You've had it in place for about 3 years.
We've had it in place for 3 years with 9 fire departments and one our search and rescue. The funding comes from the fire departments indirectly through the fire tax fund.
My understanding is the sheriff's department utilizes it as well.
We sure do.
You're happy?
Excellent program.
Okay, what's your pleasure on it, man?
I'll move to proceed with IM responding program.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Do we need to allow Paul to sign or the chairman sign this one?
Just chairman,
In this case, vice chair.
vice chair, acting chair.
Notice of the testing of automatic tabulating equipment.
Chairman, I was just wanted to report that the test of the automatic tabulating equipment will be held on November 3rd at 9 a.m. If any of you would like to attend, this test is open to the public. So we can test it, show everybody that the tabulator is indeed counting the ballots as placed in the machine. Also, just kind of a little update on absentee and early voting. We've had 2,237 requests as of this morning, and 1,883 have voted those ballots. So we have a few that haven't mailed theirs back yet. Everything is going good.
More than usual?
No, about the same, about average.
We don't have to.
Citizens have been great. They're very thankful for everything that we do. And thank you for all your support. I greatly appreciate all of it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, statutorily, the auditor's office is required to publish notice of the fact of the testing of that equipment, so that has been posted. I think Brenda just wanted to make sure she brought that to your attention. There's been some interest in those issues, so is that fair?
All right,
Thank you.
all right. Sheriff Dean, looks like it's time for you, sir.
Good morning.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to clear up a personnel issue that is arguably a clerical error that I didn't catch. So I bear the burden of blame if there is any. But on the 19th, I signed documents to hire a deputy forest named Ian Buter. And that document indicates that he was a resident of Lawrence County, when in fact he's only a part-time resident of Lawrence County. Currently, while he's on call and on his work schedule, he stays with his folks down in Nemo, with his father Butch. And the vehicle, I have an arrangement with Ian where the vehicle always stays in Lawrence County until such time that he gets his house sold in Rapid City and find permanent residency here in Lawrence County. So I just don't want there to be any misconception. That's an error I should have caught. I didn't. It's my fault. Secondly, I made mention probably about 2 months ago, I believe, that our jail board of prisoners was having difficulty staying on budget because of the increased cost in food. I told you at that time that I thought we could make some adjustments, which in fact we have. But I am projecting, presently we're at 75% of our year, and we have spent 86.45% of our budget. So I'm projecting that we're going to go over budget somewhere in the neighborhood of about $10,000. But we've been able to have some salary recapture over the course of the year. So I think we're still fine. I'm quite certain that we're still fine. So at any rate, the next thing that I would address would be our PSAP. As this board knows, we have spent a considerable amount of money this year doing a wholesale upgrade to our systems that was needed and presented as a requirement to keep our systems functioning. And I have had numerous discussions over the last couple of weeks as we have entered into some of the cutover process. The cutover itself has gone all right, but what we are finding
with the help of some technical people out of Minneapolis, is that some of our existing systems are not marrying up as they thought they would. This will have an impact in next year's budget to try to get some of those systems up and running. I don't like where they are now, and it's going to require some immediate attention. I'm also working with Paul Thompson on it because his channels are also affected. But I'll keep the board updated as we move forward.
They can be cured.
Money can cure a great many things, but
Imagine that.
yeah. So it wasn't supposed to work that way. We had assurances from our local vendor that we were going to be fine, but apparently we don't know for sure until you actually connect different systems, and so we're struggling with that. In terms of our Public Safety and Services Center, they're moving along as per their schedule. They were not able to work much in terms of the footings yesterday because of the weather, but they're back at it today, and they hope to do a second pour tomorrow morning. So they are roughly 1/3 around the section of the building that is referred to as Section C. So hopefully by the end of this week, they'll be nearly 3/4 of the way around Section C. So it's progressing. And next, in regards to the Black Hills Energy easement agreement, I know that Mr. Auka has been in conversations with Jim Surska, and I would defer to him for further explanation.
Yes.
For your consideration are essentially 3 different documents. The first one is a letter agreement, I would call it, dated October 18th, and it outlines what Black Hills Energy will do and then also what Lawrence County is required to do. So it's sort of a letter agreement, doesn't require any signatures to execute it. I should add, before I get too far, that with respect to all 3 of these documents, I'll discuss that our team, as I would call it, have all reviewed them. And actually, I think Mr. Stampy, one of the civil engineers, came back with some points to bring up, and I took those to Mr. Surska, and those have been deleted from the county requirements. They included installing a couple of different kinds of cabinets. So we have had it vetted through our team. So I would note that agreement, the letter dated October 18th. More importantly, you have the electric easement, underground easement for signature. There's an exhibit on there that would depict where the service would go. So at the appropriate time, I'll be asking for the vice chairman's signature on that. And then also there's a grade agreement, a 1-page agreement that I think speaks for itself. So I provided all the necessary background documents to them, and so they're ready to go to that is your pledge. And I should note, importantly, that it is proposed that this service will occur at no cost to the county, and you can reference that. I think I had it on mark on one of my sheets here. It's on page 2 of the October 18th agreement. Considering the estimated allowance based on estimated 4 years of revenue for this project, will ask the Black Hills Energy cost to provide service. There are no charges for this line extension.
Okay, Commissioner Diver.
Well, I read through this in the October 18th letter, and the underground easement. They left some verbiage in there, in my opinion, that is for overhead. To my point, the October 18th says that in 15 feet each side, and the easement says 10 feet on each side, that we have to have certain clearances. I think we need to reserve the right to put other things in that trench or in that corridor. In fact, if we wanted to put a communication cable 5 feet away from it in the same corridor, we should be able to do that, especially since this is an exclusive underground easement. So I think if we can have that discussion with the energy provider on what those restrictions truly mean, because typically you put those in the same areas so you don't have multiple corridors running across property that cost you $3 million. So I'd like to be efficient with our use of the property. So if we could revisit this on the first after we have that conversation, unless is there an immediacy in this or urgency?
I think there is some urgency actually. And I don't see in the easement agreement that it's exclusive. So I don't see anything in there that, unless I'm missing it, that necessarily contemplates that same trench can't be used. I think we're required to put the trench in. And so I would say that we would get to say what other additional things go in there, unless I'm missing something.
Well, it's the second paragraph of the agreement, the electric easement underground, last sentence. Secure a clearance from the conductors of at least 10 feet. We don't have any conductors. This is underground. And also in that sentence, it says by other means from said right of way, any brush, trees, stumps, roots, or other vegetation. And then in the letter, second page, the paragraph that has 15 feet from high voltage power lines, minimum clearance. I just like clarification that we can put things in the facility.
Did you have something to add to that, Paul?
I have recent experience with that. I've given an easement on my property for power and light, and I told them exclusive, and they came back and put in cable TV, and I could not keep that out of there because South Dakota law includes with power and light what I was told
Utility.
the rights to put in cable.
And I think if you read this, it says building, pole, center billboard, but it doesn't say other utilities. I would think it would specifically include that. And again, that's just an observation, whether that's the fact or not. I don't know.
If we have that clarification, I'm comfortable with it. I don't want to give up this entire corridor to one provider.
Yeah, I don't think that's the intention here. I see no language in here that contemplates that it's exclusive.
Make a motion to approve and allow the chairman to sign with clarification from our attorney on that one item.
I will go and try to make a call so we can get this resolved.
I will second that motion.
So do we want to wait before we vote on this prior to your call?
Well, I think you can vote on it, and if I can't get it resolved, then you have to bring it back.
All right, we have a motion and a second to sign these agreements. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, the last thing I would add under my time would be just an offering to anybody that wants, from the board that wants a tour or an update of information, please give me a call. I can arrange to walk you over the property and help you understand exactly.
Thank you for the tour that you provided for me. That was helpful. Randy.
On the RCS update, second page, the RFP and change orders, those negative numbers, are they included in the original value engineering? Or are they separate and distinct from that, you know?
Those are, some are and some aren't.
I don't want to dig into that today, Mr. Chairman.
If you, Mr. Commissioner, if you want a reference to what those what those numbers are indicating, I've got that information.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so down to the Natural Resource Committee. Randy, are you going to update us on that?
I think Bruce had part of that too,
Okay.
but I'll preface. We have two things that need attention. One is the MOU. Most of the counties will be approving their MOUs and filing them with Forest Service over the next couple of weeks. We requested some changes. They haven't come forward completely yet. Ours is a little unique because we have a caveat in there that this will not supersede our existing cooperative agency status. So I don't think Dr. Outka has got that all fixed yet. So I would suggest we're going to see that part of this over the next couple of meetings. We're very comfortable with the MOU with that exception and a couple other small language. We had a meeting, the counties had a meeting with the Forest Service a week ago yesterday, and the MOU is one of the bigger topics. Some of them have signed them already. Wyoming has signed theirs. But none of the, to my knowledge, only one of the South Dakota counties has signed it. We asked for some edits. So that's moving forward. Number two is Pennington County, Meade County, and Fall River County have all contributed money out of their contingency funds and other funds. They've already deposited it with Black Hills Council of Local Governments. Bennington County was $50,000. Meade County is $8,000, and I believe Fall River is $10,000. So I think it's time for us to move $25,000 from our gold tax severance fund that we pledged into that fund. Brenda, what do we need to accommodate that? Do we need a public hearing?
Yes, we do. And I sent that to the paper, contingent upon the decision today to pay that money. So
And how much did you put in that?
I did 50.
50. And
Just
I
so
think
that
that's appropriate because we can put it in there and we can get it back.
If you
That'd
don't
be 2
spend
years.
it, if you don't use it, it just stays there. It's
But
just
that was
giving
out of
me
the interest part of the gold severance.
it's just giving me the authority to spend it if you guys choose to. If you choose not to,
Do we need a
just-
motion to follow through on that?
if you're gonna to set the public hearing,
Yeah.
we could do that. Yeah.
And then I'll finish up and then I'll make that motion. And this Thursday, the counties meet and they're discussing the hiring to be our point man. I think that's going to go well. It's a little idle right now. There's some actions being taken through other groups to bring the states on board. And we're going to see some of that evolving up in the next few weeks. That being said, I make a motion to set the public hearing for the supplementary budget for $50,000 from the gold tax severance fund to Black Hills Council of Local Governments.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
I'll second with the gold severance tax fund wording verbiage.
Yeah. I'll put the
The
correct,
interest
yeah.
coming out of the interest.
What did I say?
Gold tax severance.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Interest.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Yeah. A couple other updates. The Multiple Use Coalition is meeting this Friday at, is it 4, Richard? They meet 4 o'clock? 4, at the Holiday Inn. Anybody that wants to attend from the county, the forest plan is always on their discussion. Might be a good meeting to go to if you have some time. There's going to be more than 2. We'd have to do a notice of quorum.
I'm tied up, I won't be able to make it.
So we just think you two are going, Richard?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. If you decide to go, Brandon, I'll let you
Uh-oh, you're.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Homemade cinnamon rolls. Homemade cinnamon. Richard, homemade cinnamon rolls.
Okay,
Fine.
I'll send Karen an email.
I'm good at that.
Also, it appears that the LiDAR products shall be coming in the next week or 10 days.
Yeah, I saw there was an update on that.
And have we paid, or have they paid us yet? Has Nyman paid us the money that we're paying the consultant?
No, Nyman was gonna pay them directly.
They were, okay, so that's taken care of. Okay. That was my concern.
We haven't. paid
Otherwise, I
anything.
was gonna talk to that issue, but
Yeah,
since our
no,
people
we have not paid anything because Nyman said.
gonna pay it
they were
all.
gonna handle that.
All right. Well, that's all I have. I know that the committee is going to meet over the next couple of weeks once we light out.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we'll have Alan in for his appointment.
Good, how are you?
Season pass.
Yeah.
I need to get mine. The free skiing.
Yeah. Have to see if it's so.
I think.
You know,
It's not cold.
yeah. Just last night. I was talking to a guy that's really- They're just terrible.
So did you,
Where
where did you go to eat?
It's a long story. So we stayed here, we walked over to Legacy. It's all across the street.
Yeah.
Hour and a half. Well, we're not gonna wait that long. So we went down to saloon number 10.
Okay.
They're closed. They were closed last night.
Yeah.
And so we ended up walking all the way over here to Jacobs.
There you go.
And it was good. It was really good. We were able to get in.
That was the other one I was gonna tell you. When I- Yeah, so you should tell them about it.
I'm sure.
Dustin had told me about it. So,
Legends is a tough place to get in. You gotta line up at 5 o'clock, 4:30.
yeah.
For the most part, worldwide.
And then unfortunately, like I said, I didn't get out of Terry's board meetings until 5:30, 5:40. which was actually
Once we knew better. we
fairly
could
quick for
slow
them.
down.
How'd that go?
Good, very good.
I don't
They're
think we assumed
similar
it
to what
was
they
long.
requested. They had funding for a project,
Right.
went out the bid,
Right.
blew the doors off of that.
Yeah.
They went and requested some funding.
I mean, we could-
Unfortunately,
Yellowstone.
they're doing it just for the meters, just meters.
I mean, maybe
And so the
society
state,
was like,
most recently, their meters only have a service life of roughly average 10 years. Change the loan parameters in 10 years. So that just means you gotta pay it off, so that means the debt.
What meters are they planning to use?
They're going with iPearls. They bought the meters themselves, actually.
Okay,
So they went with iPearls, which was one of the other versions that we had looked at as well.
so I heard that was a long lead item.
And that's why they purchased them early. They won't be, they'll be looking, their additional fund request won't be viewed until January. So they won't be looking at going back up to bid until March, April. Which is okay, they have a ordinance that they're only, they're not allowed to do
but I
any
think
work
we need better.
on the water system. Only one day, one October.
It's very,
So what do they show you? How many?
information as opposed to not other.
225, somewhere around in there.
50 billion.
250, 205,
Not
240,
someplace up
somewhere in there. Yeah.
My sister went, there was only 9 permit, right?
Oh, yeah. I know. Yeah.
Are you?
Good.
One thing moving forward.
Yeah, I know.
Other people in that business have built some.
How long were you in service? 6 years, a little over 6. Air Force.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you work on the civil side?
Yeah, I was a civil engineer for the Air Force.
And did you work as a civil servant too, then, or just?
No, I did. I did a brief stint of contractor work at the Air Force Academy. I realized that wasn't bad business. So, DOT contractor is the low of the low.
I have an explanation, Mr. Chairman.
So that Academy Boulevard is a suicide road?
We'll come back to
Here. I was not.
I think I can satisfactorily answer your questions, Chairman. So the easement itself, it talks about 10 feet on either side. That's the easement. And so I think that sort of speaks for itself. Considered to be separately is the letter agreement that it talks about the 10 and the 15 feet respectively. I think the 10 feet comes from, as the letter references, from state law. It looks like it's a safety distance. Black Hills Power, Black Hills Energy is actually requesting that there be 15 feet. So I think it's meant to be for, again, an additional safety clearance in there. So, and with respect to the trench, it is not intended to be an exclusive trench. It is our trench. If we want to, the electrical service will go in early, and probably, I don't know if the trench then gets filled in, but it's within our right to dig it back up and co-locate whatever we want, whatever can be done safely.
Okay.
So I think
Is there, I heard at one time that gas company was a little spendy to put the service in. Has that been resolved, or?
we're working on that. The original bill for that was going to be over $400,000, and so we've gone back and forth with help again of our sort of the folks on our team. And I would summarize that MD has come back with a proposal that would allow us to basically pay for the service over time instead of upfront. And so I think how that would get reflected is that there will be an additional, the rate that monthly rate that we will be charged will be more expensive than the normal rate. And then there's a surcharge that will go on as well. And I think, as I recall correctly, with respect to the surcharge or the tariff, normally those would be in place for 5 years. In order to cost this out for MDU, they would ask that the surcharge be in place for 10 years. And in order to do that, I think they have to get permission from the Public Utilities Commission. So I think that's the status of it now, is they're currently running these things through the Public Utilities Commission for its consideration. Okay, but we're fairly confident that we'll get it worked out. It's going to be more expensive, yes.
Commissioner Divers.
Mr. Hopkins, is it true that the original estimate from MDU was $40,000? And now we're $400,000.
We had, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. There were email conversations between sort of our folks and them, and we had reasonable assurances that I think it was 40,000 or so, 42,000 that was budgeted for would be sufficient. And I think whoever we were working with on the MDU side either retired or left, and then it was announced that they had some kind of a policy change, and that sort of affected what we were going to have to pay. And although there are a number of taps that are out there in the vicinity, they did ultimately decide that we could use the tap, I think, that now services the lodge, but it's going to require some infrastructure to be put in. I think they also thought maybe we could use the tap that's servicing a big subdivision up there, but I think that they are going to put in, do their own improvements on their own, and so there would be no cost sharing there. And then to run from that tap down was going to be fairly expensive, or to run up from the Deadwood side up. In any regard, I think we have it worked out.
Okay,
So stand by for that. That will not be a no charge.
well, I mean, you know, we're always been pretty generous with them occupying our right of ways without any charge. I should think that that would go both ways. So we maybe better be cognizant of that in the future.
If we have any more discussions with them, we'll try to bring that up. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard to leverage that a whole lot. But I'm mindful of that.
All right.
And if I could digress for a minute, Mr. Alka, when you were gone, we talked about the natural resources. Did you have anything beyond the cash and the MOU?
So I think that we're waiting to get the final language on the cooperating agency agreement, right? Actually, your second one. And so I'll hopefully have that to bring to you, probably not on November 1st, but maybe November 11th, it would seem right. And so you talked about the assessments, the second round of assessments, and the possible ability to comment on those.
Yeah, but briefly, I was going to update after.
Okay, so I have nothing else to add.
All right, Mr. Bottom, floor is yours,
Thank
sir.
you.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen. Don't have a whole lot today.
No approach or utility permits today?
No approach permits. We have this memorandum of understanding between Bennington County and Lawrence County for the snow plowing. We entered last year, was the first year, maybe the year before.
Same agreement.
Same agreement, basically, is what we've done in the past. Yes.
How'd it work out?
Works good.
Works good.
We've been actually doing the Rochford, down in the Rochford every time we plow anyhow for many, many years. We never had anything up until a couple of years ago. We weren't getting, that's when Pennington County agreed to plow up to Erskine Gulch in Lawrence County to kind of offset the amount that we're doing now.
Not a good place to turn around.
Works out
Yeah,
good
Rochford
for
anyway.
both of us.
Your recommendation, sign?
I would recommend to go ahead and approve that agreement.
Motion to
again.
follow recommendation. Second. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to allow the vice chair to sign the agreement. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
And this will be something that we'll be doing on an annual basis every year. And it can be changed after, you know, if we don't want to do it next year, or if we want to increase the amount or decrease it, something that the board will have the privilege to do. All right, well, the next one is the Deer Mountain Sanitary District. We discussed this at length at our last meeting with the water pipeline. And I had some concerns, major concerns. The board had some major concerns. And we were, I think at the meeting, it was said we were going to go out there and look at it, which happened with me and the sanitary district people yesterday. They went out there in the snowstorm. They did make changes in on their in plans, and I think that was part of the noted in it was in your packets. Instead of angling the pipeline across the road at an angle, we
90 degrees across. Okay. And the other issue that I had, or I brought up the last meeting, is we've never allowed open trenching across our roads, which we haven't in the 10 years that I've been here. Except for one time, there was a gas line on Lakeland years ago that we did allow the open trench. So that was the other issue I had about the open trenching. But then meeting with Joe and Mr. Henry yesterday, it came up that we're now going to cross the road there, and then we're going down to the east, down Brownfield Road. I got to thinking about this. After we met yesterday. You're proposing on digging this trench like only about 4 or 5 foot off of the gravel surface. Down the edge, basically down the edge of the shoulder of the road, correct?
Off the road, yes.
Off of the road surface, not down on the inslope, down in the bottom of the ditch.
That was not the intended ideal, correct. Just based on the slopes, you know, of that road on that south side there would make it would make any form of installation on down installation and maintenance would be fairly difficult the further away we were off of that. We recognize that we want to protect the existing roadway, and by such we're also looking at ensuring that if there was ever a maintenance concern, we weren't consistently going into the roadway. We were seeking to just be off of the edge of the road itself, not say the far edge of the right of way. No.
Okay, I got it. Next question. You're putting this pipeline in at 72 inches deep. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a minimum of 7 feet to the top of the pipe. So it will be deeper than that with a 6 inch. Yeah, correct.
All right. Now, what is going to be the width of your trench then when you're digging the trench for this pipeline? I'm assuming it's got to be
reasonable for a trench. A standard trench box is 5 feet. Width wise in order to put a standard trench box. We, in this particular case, it does not make sense to try to bench because then you obviously have extended amount of impact that has to be improved upon. So, a standard trench box is 5 feet wide, for that. And that's to get 7 feet is a requirement anyways for OSHA for safety of the security of the actual trench itself.
So when you're digging this 5 foot wide trench, 7 or 8 foot deep, when you're digging it, where are you going to pile the dirt when you're excavating? The only place you could pile the dirt would be back up onto the surface of the road. Is that what you're planning on doing?
Well, if we're 5 feet off, you still have plenty of space between that, to have between the edge of the roadway and the box. There's still sufficient amount of road there to not have, continuous piles, going down on the road itself. What we're looking to ensure is that we would minimize our impact as much as possible, not only to the installation of the line, but also to those folks off of Brownsville Road. So.
No, you're digging the trench 5 foot wide and you're dumping that material up alongside the trench. Some of that material is going to end up being on the actual gravel surface of the road right on the edge of it. There's no way you can pile it any narrower. A 7 foot deep trench, 5 foot wide, that's a lot of material. That's going to be piled. That's going to have to be piled along.
And a lot of that will go back into the trench. Well, obviously, we have to bed material. We can't have unsuitable material against the edge of our pipe. That's we ensure that we are installing this so that we don't have to go back in there, and therefore we don't want to have rocks or unsuitable material against. But a mass majority of that material will go back into the trench itself, as stated as well yesterday. Any work that is done by the contractor is responsible to return everything back into its original condition, whether that's road, grass, asphalt, whatever it is, it's the contractor's responsibility to return that back to its original condition. So if there was an excess of pile that ended up on the road, I'm just saying if there was, then it's the contractor's responsibility to scrape that material off and provide back, gravel on top of that edge of it. Us being that far off, you're literally talking maybe a foot or two on the roadway. We are not talking about the road itself. We're talking at worst the edge of the shoulder.
That was my concern, and I think that's where you're going, is we may have to re-gravel that road.
It's gonna have to be, you pile dirt on a road surface, you push it back in the trench, you get contamination from the dirt onto the gravel, and then it's gonna have to be re-gravelled along that whole edge line when they're done.
Commissioner Diamond.
I share some of the concerns. We have a 66-foot right of way in there, and I would say that the road in most areas is about 28 feet, which would be 14 feet from center line. That leaves us a net of 19 feet from the edge of the gravel to the right of way. And when you put a 5-foot trench in there, and the spoils and the cage, trench box, obviously that trench box will be out on the road. If the spoils are on the far side, the trench box will be out on the road, so you can lower it into the trench. I think I would be more comfortable is if we went in and actually cleared 33 feet on the side of the road they're constructing ahead of time, so we can maximize all of the road areas. That would give them incentive to pile the dirt further off the road. And if they are infringing upon the gravel, it could be with the trench box, because there can be less disturbance with the trench box. And that's still going to be some disturbance. But Mr. Noble, will there be one traffic lane that will be closed during each day of construction to accommodate this?
We anticipate that there would only be a traffic lane restriction for when we were doing the crossings. And we did make note as we understood, the commissioner's concerns. So we did make a note that it is outlined on this application that at any given time, no matter what weather, we anticipate that the main times that there would be a lane closure would be the crossings. But we did note that the contractor was responsible to ensure that at any given time, there's at least the ability for one lane of traffic to move. And it would be their responsibility, the contractor's responsibility, to provide a safe work environment to include any traffic control as necessary for those folks.
So there would be flaggers and those
flaggers, cones, if necessary, based on some of the slopes and everything. I would anticipate that we would see jersey barriers to help protect folks from not accidentally slipping off the side of the road and going into a 7-foot trench box, if there was any extended periods like that. Looking at Brownsville Road, especially as you continue further east, the side slope there on the south gets extremely steep as we go down. So, that's just one of those things that we would look at ensuring the contractor provides that safe environment, not only to themselves, but to those people who are utilizing Brownsville Road.
A couple other questions, if I may. The crossing at North Rochford under the paving, is that going to be bored?
It is.
Okay.
That was already been previously approved as a different separate permit. As Rochford Road is a highway, and we understand Brownsville as being a road, we had two separate requirements, so two separate requests.
And then in this permit, you also include Inglewood Road. And so upon construction of a new pump house, that tie-in, will that be bored or open trench?
That has to be open trench.
And that's the tie-in to your
That's
source.
the tie-in to the source. Unfortunately, that has to be open trench just because of the location of the existing line itself and the nature of which we have to put that. This is a quick just sidebar on that. The connection into the Lead Deadwood sanitary line is of one high importance in the ability to collect water. There's not a lot of flow in that line. In order for us to collect line, we have to ensure that that connection is set in a very particular way, which a bore would not allow us to have that level of accuracy.
Well, and knowing where that line is from the work I've done down there, it's going to be in the road.
It's right. We had taken the effort to ensure that we have located that line prior to it. We were hoping that it would not be inside of the road. It is right on the edge of the road and the shoulder in itself. Yeah.
Well, and I recognize the challenges here because we have all these old lines, both from your source and what you are pumping through now. We really don't have a lot of history on those.
Correct.
And so I would anticipate during the process, some of these routes might change in the field. And what I'm advocating is that we give our highway superintendent a lot of latitude to work with these folks on doing the right things to ensure the county has their road maintained and clear what we need to clear, or work with them to give them the permission to clear. And it's going to be a challenge, but this water system is servicing 110 users right now.
120 current residential users and 1 commercial user, and then the system is being designed to accommodate water service to Deer Mountain Village,
Which is another 200.
Anticipated to be as many as 200 homes.
So this is a big water system.
This is a, yes.
Commissioner Flanagan? Well, I agree with Commissioner Piper. I think we need to have that Alan has the leeway to have discussions with you folks to get stuff done. And I think, and I know his ultimate goal is to make the citizens of the county whole. If when it's all done, if the road is fine, that you guys get your system in the way it needs to be. We're all, that everything's back the right way.
One last question on item 18. The 20% of the total contract bid. The total contract bid includes tanks, a lot of off-site improvements that aren't in the road. So how are we going to itemize? Are you just going to do the pipe, or how are you going to do that?
I apologize. I don't understand the question.
What's the engineer's estimate of your total water project?
Right now, it's currently $4.7 million.
Okay. So, but only about 30 or 40% of that's in this pipe.
If you take the pipe in its holistic, the entirety from the pump house to the tanks, including distribution and upgrade, it's probably closer to 50% of the total cost, with the other 50% being pumps, pump houses, and tanks.
Yeah, so my point is the county right-up performance bond will be furnished by the contractor for the amount of 20% of the total contract bid.
Well, it would be way higher than what the percentage of this entire
So that would
portion
be
of this line would
$800,000.
be. Easily, if not more.
Okay, and you're comfortable with that? That's a lot. I mean,
I mean,
a certain part of this
what I'm
is
saying
right
is I understand the county has a surety requirement of $5,000. The performance bond associated with this project, which includes this installation of this line, will far exceed that and basically would hold the contractor responsible if there was ever an issue necessary to improve that. As we also just spoke, 2 items I just wanted to clarify that we had spoken with Alan yesterday was one, an extended period of warranty for particularly the county, which we have agreed to be able to accommodate that, as well as mentioned before, and I just want to reiterate this, we welcome any sort of county member associated with this portion of the project to come out to the site at any given time to see and ensure that the project is being installed as it's being, conveyed here in this permit. We welcome and encourage anybody to come out during this portion to ensure that what has been requested is actually being done as well.
Another question?
Yeah, one last item. This form is really set up for crossings and we have a lot of space. We don't have either of those. So we have crossings here. Would you have any problems with increasing that surety bond? $30,000 to cover that gravel.
Would you want a separate surety bond? Is that what you're asking
Well, it
for?
says that a surety bond is sum of $5,000 required plus the performance bond. I think $30,000 or $20,000 would be a lot more surety in the county that we get that gravel replaced. It's $5,000 is regular gravel. Alan, do you have a thought on that?
Well, yeah, 5,000 doesn't
get you much these days. We just did 30 truckloads of gravel down on Merit Estes Road to cover some damage caused by SDN communication. We hauled it, we spread it, and that's gonna run about $18,500 for 30 belly dump loads of gravel on that stretch of road.
And unfortunately, we've had a bad experience recently where they're not stepping up and doing it, and I'm not saying you would do that, but I would, since this is such a long one and we have these crossings, I'd like to see the warranty increase for 2 years like we did discuss, and I'd like to see an increase in the surety bond.
Question, Flanagan.
But I think probably part of the issue is differentiating between the performance bond and the surety bond. And what exactly is covered by both of those.
2 donuts.
No cinder rolls.
Mr. Chairman, I have a list that I thought up after a list of I call them special stipulations for the period. And I have 9 different items here, and I wanted to make sure that you're okay with it and the board is satisfied. Item number 1, pipeline will be allowed to be open trenched across Brownville Road at the 2 locations shown in the project plans as Exhibit A attached to the permit application. Okay, because it says in this permit that request has to be in writing, approved by the county to open trench. So by having this in there, we meant that. Number 2, piling or stockpiling material will only be allowed under the road service at the 2 crossing locations. Piling or stockpiling material under the road service will not be allowed when trenching alongside the road. Okay, you're okay with that? Number 3, the pipeline where it crosses onto the road must be encased inside of the steel casing at a depth of not less than 72 inches. You're under that.
I don't know. I will reserve my comments so I get all of them.
Number 4, Brownsville Road shall remain open to traffic during the installation of the pipeline. Number 5, each pipeline crossing shall be constructed at or near the same time to help avoid and minimize delays to the traveling public. Number 6, there shall be warning and protection to highway traffic during the installation of the pipeline by use of proper signs, barricades, flaggers, and lights as prescribed in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices 2009 edition. I think somewhere in here I see where it uses the old 2003 edition or something. So
yeah, we'll ensure to use that.
Number 7, Lawrence County Highway Department personnel shall be invited to attend the project pre-construction meeting prior to the start of the project. You will mention that. Number 8, length of warranty time shall be determined by the Lawrence County Commissioners. Are you okay with 2 years?
Yeah. I think so.
Number 9, at or near the completion of the project, Lawrence County Highway Department personnel shall be notified and requested to inspect the project areas involving the locations in the county road right of way. And I would attach this sheet with this. Make it part of.
There's actually 3 crossings, one's on Inglewood, they would open trench.
Well, but it's not on, they're not crossing Inglewood. That's not Inglewood Road, that's Cabin Road there, that they're crossing. Isn't it?
No, that's over at their source. Right there by John.
Oh, okay, down
so
there.
There's actually 3 crossings. That's by John Stiegel's.
Oh, that's
further to the east.
Oh, that's from the old, that's where
It's a new, no, it's a new one they're building there. The old one is to your left. The old one is right here. Here's the old pump house right there. This is the new pump house.
This is the old line.
Oh, yeah.
This is the old line.
And we'll be abandoning the old
That's
line.
not the old line. That's the lead center. Correct. That's their tie-in.
And we'll be abandoning the existing connection point at the existing pump house. That will be, all that line will be ripped out, the valve will be closed and will be encased to ensure that that line doesn't leak in the road. We've taken that assurance as well as the line going underneath the new connection point would be installed. That, as stated, that needs to be open trenched in order for us to properly install that.
And I just wanted to get that open trench. Yeah. So on that stipulation because there are actually 3.
Commissioner Sleep?
I'd be concerned with, pipes like ditch there, you're gonna pile the ditch material on the downside, and so the upper side on the road there is gonna get more use. Is there gonna be less stability there along that side of the ditch? You have to do that, or what?
No, the ditch will be installed back properly with erosion control blankets and wattles as well to ensure that those have been installed so that ultimately the goal would be that grass would be regrown back to provide the proper, not only the erosion stability, but as well as everything has to meet proper 95% proctor as they come up in lifts. We have set specifications that meet SDDOT standards, which state that you have X amount of inches that you have to compact as you put that pipe back up. It's not just pushing dirt back in and rolling it over. It has to meet DDOT embankment standards as well. So all of that side bank will all be installed properly back in so that it is a true, stabilized and meeting the existing grade as well.
Okay, so are you comfortable with the stipulations that highway?
Oh, I had one question as it was mentioned in here. The further we go off, if it was the county's, desire to help with that cleaning of the encroachments, then, that would help us ensure that we can properly address some of these concerns. Because the further we go off the road, the more encroachments that are currently present in that existing easement. If that was truly stipulated, I think we would have a much easier time of ensuring that we could stay further away from the road to address those concerns. The further we go, the more encroachments and everything else we have to address in this, just to ensure that we're not putting a little bit of dirt on the side of the road. I feel that would be a fair compromise. The further we go, if there was some support from the county to help with those encroachments.
Okay. Alan?
Well, he mentioned yesterday, when I were talking about getting it, further, well, there's trees that would need to be removed, and he asked if the county would go out there and remove the trees prior to, so that, and I myself don't think the county should have to spend dollars to remove trees, and able to get these guys a pipeline system, and that should be part of the project. That's my opinion.
Commissioner Davis?
Well, typically, the physical removal is one thing, but if the county would be the liaison between the construction and the public,
The landowner.
yeah, then it's our right of way.
It is the right of way.
So if we're out there saying, hypothetically marking where that 33 is, and the contractor removes it, then they're not after the contractor. And that is always a challenge, because contractors are the bad guy with all them. Whoever the entity is, whether it's the Forest Service or the land. We might move out of our right of way to let you maintain the highways better viewing, more opportunity for the snow to melt and places to put the snow by removing those trees. I don't advocate that the county spend any money on trees, that they assist with the contractor and applicant.
I would just say that the more that you're willing to remove, the more we're able to be further off the road. If it's not having any sort of impact on the road, then the further down the road that side have to do, which means production, there's also this ask of a encasement that doesn't currently meet ordinance in terms of road requirements. It's a highway requirement, but my understanding is Brownsville Road is a county road, not a county highway. We have been, we're willing to work and ensure that we're giving the best quality product to the county, but we're being pushed further and further down that side hill. So any consideration would be greatly appreciated as we try to ensure that we accommodate all these concerns.
Okay, gentlemen, we've beat this horse to death. Where do you want to go?
I'd like to see a couple things maybe added to his list, but I leave that to Alan. One was the tree removal will be done by the contractor. I think that's important. And I really want to understand the difference between the surety bond and the performance bond.
Mr. Alka?
Well, it's not obvious to me that there's any difference. I guess I think it can be either one of them could be sufficient for what you need. They just take on different forms. You're looking at item 18.
Yeah.
And so it talks about a surety bond. It could be a letter of credit, it could be a surety bond, it could be cash on deposit. I don't really know what the question is.
I think the big issue is if there's subsidence in the ditch, if the ditch subsides and needs to be repaired, does that cover that? And also if we need to re-gravel part of the lane on the road that they're trenching along because it's contaminated with dirt, does it cover those two items? That would seem to be the big impacts of the county.
Well,
in my opinion.
And some of it's also covered by warranty as well. So
And that's what we're just trying to, at the end of the day, we want to know who's going to pay if the county hasn't been made whole. If it's determined that we haven't been made whole, who's going to pay? We just want to make sure it's not taxpayers.
Right, and I would just say one last thing, and we talked yesterday as well, is, I understand that you've had issues with other entities in the past, but Deer Mountain Sandy District is comprised solely of folks who live and reside here in Lawrence County. We as a consultant reside here in the Black Hills as well. We all have a vested interest, and this isn't something that necessarily is we're installing and we run away, because this is actually the lifeblood that is needed for the district itself. The trustees of the board are completely comprised of Lawrence County and want to ensure that at the end of the day, Lawrence County is happy with it, because we're also going to be a part of that as well. So,
That's certainly not what we're concerned. Things happen.
yeah,
They
understood.
just do.
Yep.
And we've been unfortunately on the side of it'll be just fine, and it's not. And that again, that has nothing to do with your mountain or you folks or anybody else. Sometimes things do happen. We just want to make sure that there's a mechanism in place. And then
Well, I would move to approve the permit with Alan's stipulations and the stipulation that tree removal would be performed by the applicant. The surety bond would be $35,000, and the performance bond would be $400,000 or 10% of the bid, whichever is greater.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Bruce, did you have something to add?
it seems to me like performance bond and surety bond are the same thing. So I think what you're talking about is, or how this would normally work is they would post a bond that would be refunded to them, I think, upon successful completion of the project. I think what you're talking about is some kind of like a warranty kind of a bond. And so I think they're sort of separate issues here. And you can accomplish both of those, but you would have a bond that would take you through, I think, successful installation of the improvements, and then some kind of bond that would cover the warranty after the fact. Then if you're going to have a 2-year bond in that respect, it's going to sit out there for a couple of years. So there would be some expense to the sanitary district for that, is my guess.
Or the contractor.
Or the contractor, or whoever.
Well, it'll go to the district. All these, everything that, I understand all these requirements will be an increased cost to the district.
Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Well, I don't see them as the same. I see the $35,000 is readily available to gravel immediately, and I see the performance bond as the longer term.
Yeah, that's
I
usually
see them
brought
distinct.
against, claims brought against the contractor by outside individuals. Say the contractor doesn't pay his fuel bills or his bills for his pipe or whatever. Usually that's what a performance bond covers, not.
Yeah, it can cover that, lien releases and things like that, right?
And that's usually how they function in my experience.
Right.
But this isn't that complicated, I think.
And so my motion stands: $35,000 for the surety bond and $400,000 or 10% of the bid for the performance bond, whichever is greater.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second for approval with the added language. Everyone understand it? All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
One further comment here, we'll add that third cross.
in your items. The third.
The Inglewood.
Okay,
Okay, I'll retype this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's script.
You're only 10 minutes.
Okay, and I'll get you that.
lady,
Yes, I've signed there, that's the one.
do you have anything further, sir?
I don't think I do. I thought somebody said something about a bill, Bruce.
He'll talk to you about it later.
Oh, he didn't want to talk.
He said he'll talk to you about it.
Anything else, John?
You have been dismissed.
What's this?
You have been dismissed.
I believe so.
Remember, the next folks are here before.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. And then they,
I called twice yesterday.
at the last page of your guys' packet, this came in after the meeting based on the conditions that the planning and zoning. I want you to review the conditions for this last page.
Is there a last page on, in the thing in the book?
Yep, it should be in
The thing on
the staff report.
drive?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or it might be a separate page,
It's,
because there's multiple
yeah,
documents.
it's not.
Let's see.
Oh, there it is.
I thought I put it in there.
Request amendment.
Yes. Do you want me to throw that away?
We will resume here in just a little bit once we gather the ducks back up.
She asked you to sign.
Don't forget to give it back to you. I'll be answering your calls all week. Yeah.
What's this? Yeah, I think so. I know he wants to get away from, in case he comes to the road, I'm not entirely sure.
It's a highway.
Okay. Are we ready?
800,000.
Okay, we'll come back to order here. I believe the public hearing was closed on this, correct?
So this is the public
This
hearing
is the
today.
public
It's a
hearing?
conditional use permit, so you just have one public hearing. Not
All
two
right.
like you did,
You guys
so.
did the planning
Planning and
and
zoning.
zoning.
We had a public hearing.
We'll let Amber open this up for us, and then we'll refer to the public for comments. If you want to comment for or against, when you stand, please state your name and your address for the record. And once we close the public hearing, please refrain from getting in on any of our discussion unless we specifically ask a question. Go ahead, Amber.
This is a campground slash, this is a hard one. It's a small campground slash specialty resort. You could kind of put it where you wanted it with that, but they are right off of Matson Lane and then the first turn into Majestic Estates. It is zoned highway service commercial already, so it was there when they purchased it. They would like to put in 5 cabins and run it as kind of people check themselves in, check themselves out. They'll have someone there to come and, clean and keep up on everything, but there is no residential structure on site. This kind of just shows you the general location each time. And then conditions were put into place at the planning and zoning meeting. We did get a letter from the developer regarding the water, because that had come up, and the developer of the Majestic Heights subdivision has already approved what they want to do. Like, it was part of, they were planning on it, they knew it was coming, so it's part of that water system that's already out there. Rented out nightly. The access is controlled by David Winter, and he has also approved, what I want to say, the road to be, he knows it's going to be used for commercial purposes as part of that entrance, so he's aware of that already. The conditions are in there. They're pretty much, I would say, the standard conditions that we've seen. I do know we did specify no RV sites. The landowners are okay with that. They don't want to have RV sites in there. The maximum of the 5 cabins. And there was some concern with the condition that basically said someone had to be on site 24 hours a day. They were concerned about that because that wasn't part of their proposal. It was supposed to just be the 5 cabins. They will be around, but not necessarily on site 24/7. Being zoned commercial, we have a lot of commercial properties that you don't have somebody on site 24/7. So that was one thing that they just requested after the planning and zoning meeting. Would there be a way that they could ask for an amendment to this board? I told them they could always ask. So they submitted the letter that's in your last, on the last page of the document we received after that, that just asked, if maybe you would be looking at changing that. Other than that, I mean, it meets the requirements of that. It's zone commercial. If you look at the commercial district, you can have, campgrounds as a CUP, you can have a specialty resort, and then you also delve into the, motel, hotel section. That's all something that's allowed in that district. This is kind of a hybrid with it being individual cabins. So that's kind of where I'm at, and Williamses are here if you have any
Do
questions.
you have any further comments you'd like to add prior to opening it up to the public? Okay. All right, this time we would, is there anyone in the public that speak for or against this permit? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and offer to the board for consideration. Commissioner Flanagan.
So are we talking about condition number 5? It's at any time guests are present, the operator shall have on premise at least one employee that shall be trained in CPR and or medical training.
That would be the, yeah.
That's the only one that I see that occurs. So then the question is,
13 is very similar.
well, no,
13
that
is just
addresses
having a
emergency
phone number.
phone, but the intent of number 5, that's what it comes down to. It is close to town. All that stuff should be posted. If there's not, there should be required, well, which 13 says a public phone.
Yep.
And I would say someone available 24 hours a day in case.
Yeah, I think that was our
comes up.
intention. They'd have it posted, like their cell number,
I
or
think
how to get a hold of
I
them.
think I'd have less concern as long as that were a thing,
Okay.
that there was an employee available 24 hours a day, maybe not necessarily on site, but certainly within responding distance. And then a public phone, everybody nowadays has cell phones, but cell service down there is sometimes hit and miss. Deadwood is hit and miss everywhere you go down here. So,
Well,
I
they're
guess I
shaking
would
their
have-
head, so it looks like you agree with providing the
You see-
ability for someone to grab a phone and get a hold of one of you. Okay.
Then I would say then my at this point would change number 5 to say that one employee shall be available 24 hours a day in case of emergencies. I'll just say shall be available 24 hours a day to handle campground issues.
Mr. David.
Item 26, is there a road district here?
Yes, that's why I said the road
Is
district's
there a
already done
district or an authority?
it. I don't know if you guys approved it yet, Majestic Heights. David Winter, did the road district get approved? I think it
It
did,
is.
yeah.
Okay.
And he's the one that sent the letter to say, yes, if we are aware of it. we're with it.
I was just dealing with the language, road district / authority if we needed to.
Oh, okay.
And that might clarify whether the district's in place or not. So could we just add / authority? So I read the active road district / authority shall send a letter, which we have. Then that takes away any ambiguities about the road district being in place.
Do you have any, does that change with that condition? Is that acceptable?
Yes.
And you will have a phone of some kind of emergency phone use.
So, and just to clarify for me, we'll change number 5 to say, at any time when guests are present, the operator shall have an employee available 24/7 to handle any issues that may come up.
Yes.
And then take out the on-premise, at least one employee shall be trained in CPR and medical training,
Correct.
just to make sure that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would add, just for
And then the
public,
phone.
that this is very close to town. A campground that might be a little further away for responding, that condition may make a lot more sense, or with a lot more people.
And just make sure that, so there's not any confusion on your wording, that that 24-hour person does not have to be on site.
Yep, that's what I took out, that I wanted to clarify that it doesn't have to be on site.
Commissioner Slate, did you have any comments you'd like to add? Okay.
You said condition number
26.
26.
Active road district slash authority. It covers it.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve conditional use permit 481 with the adjustments and wording to condition number 5 and condition number 26.
I'll second it. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, will say nay. Motion carried.
Okay, that's great. Yep, any of those, please. And then I'll end up putting together the new conditions and we'll get them to you. You'll get a packet in the mail with everything. Okay, thank you.
All right, Amber. The next one is public hearing and first reading. Black Hills LLC Steel Campground. Amber, you want to get started on that?
Yep. It's taking a little while to load.
We're still behind.
Sorry, trying.
Bruce is getting it.
Good. Okay, so this is Black Hills LLC Steel Wheel Campground, Track C of the Rally Park Edition. So I think everybody kind of knows where the Steel Wheel Campground proper sits, which is the gas station and all the existing infrastructure. That's in the yellow that you see here, which is zoned highway service commercial. We did a change of zoning recently on the majority of this property in the back, which is now recreation commercial. And there's a little 11-acre piece in here that used to be owned by the Wichterman family, but it sold with the steel wheel when they sold the steel wheel. And it's kind of in the middle of the highway service and the recreation commercial. And right up in here is where the access comes. They've had some kind of their worker campers sort of up there, the people working. They would like to extend that 11 acres and do some more permanent long-term sites on the top portion of this. And it would be 11 acres change of zoning to the recreation commercial. I thought that was more appropriate than the highway service up on that hillside because it's not really serviced by the highway. Accesses are all in place. They own the land. They would extend. And then there was a letter of opposition from Betty Trevino. She did call me too, and the normal concerns, you know, there's a lot of development occurring over there and there's a lot more traffic than there used to be. There's ATV usage and all that. The bad thing is the trail system literally runs right behind this property and it's a major trail system. So, but that's what's there. And then we did get a letter and I just shared it with you guys yesterday from the Forest Service. They've been trying to get those to me, but it's usually like the day before the meeting, but they did comment. I didn't really take it as they had an issue. They just wanted to make everybody aware, you know, of their expectation, I guess.
Okay.
That's all I have unless you have anything else. This would be the change of zoning part. They are aware that they still have to do the development plan, which would come, that'd be the next step. And they would have their detail of, you know, where they're going to put the sites and the water. They did kind of provide an idea, but this isn't where you would approve the idea.
Okay, your folks are the.
I don't think there's anybody here. This was the one Paul Carter. Well, he
Right,
wasn't there
we'll open
either.
it up for the public for comments, and as I stated prior to, if you wish to comment for or against, please stand, state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and offer it back to the board.
I don't know if there are any questions at this time.
Yeah, when they decided to change further back, there was a concern about gusting. I was wondering, they did mag water some of those roads just for gusting, but not go to the extent that the county has.
Didn't they,
more travel all the time.
didn't they pave that part that went over the hill?
Well, there's
It's
no,
divided now, so it's not the same property. So-
yeah, it's not owned by the same people. Both of them are private property, so I don't know, I mean, it's concrete on steel wheel now, it's all concrete and asphalt.
That's what I.
So the upper part would probably still be dirt, but that's gonna be way up here.
But won't they access that now around that other road coming in? Instead of the
Well,
dust coming out from Steel Wheel, it'd be around back behind there.
No, this would be accessed coming right through, but it's all asphalt. Where they'd be crossing is
I was thinking
asphalt,
they
I
paved a bunch
guess.
of that over the hill.
I don't
Commissioner
think
Diver.
so.
I think the dust concern is primarily the dust was created by the trail system. That's on that northeast part of the property. Yeah. And it filters over the Torino's in there because they're zooming up and down that trail road. I think that's where the major dust is. But I would suggest that if the rezoning is approved and they come in for the development permit, maybe put a caveat about dust control if this is successful.
And that's what you guys did on
On another one.
Wichterman's, the neighboring one, you
That
said
was-
they're going, gravel and keep it as much as the dust down as possible. That's how you guys
So
did that one.
I think we have a chance to we discuss that if they come with help.
I think this Mrs. Trevino is one of them.
Yeah.
Complained about it.
Yeah, and you know where that trail is right behind it there, and I think that intersection is where a lot of that blows right her way, because she's on the southeast side.
Yeah, she's on the other side of the trail. So when is the public hearing on this?
Second.
Second
This
reading.
is
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
public
When is
hearing.
the second reading? Yes.
It would be the
Sorry.
I think we did the,
Second reading.
yeah, whatever, your guys' meeting schedule, I think
The
it's not until the
23rd,
10th.
or excuse me,
We have the first.
Yeah.
but you're gonna have
I'd
it
have
on
to
the
look-
10th?
I'd have to look at what Bruce decides.
Okay.
It would
Tuesday,
either,
10th
I'm
is fine.
thinking it was the 10th is what he wanted to push
Alright.
it to
This
make
will be
sure we had enough
continued
time.
then. Now we're on
Second
time. 9:30. Recess as county commissioners and convene as board of adjustment.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to recess as county commissioners and convene as board of adjustment. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are board of adjustment. This is for the Chesapeake Water and Oil Services, requesting a variance for a 3,390 foot cul-de-sac that exceeds the required 800. Amber, do you want to start us on this?
I will, as soon as this will.
Hey, we're on time.
Yeah.
Way to go, Chairman.
I'm sure it'll get screwed up. We're waiting on a slow computer here.
It's getting here. So this is a variance request for the length of the cul-de-sac, if you remember, about a month ago, I think, a little over a month ago. These guys did come in, plan of kind of a proposed change to our subdivision ordinance and kind of their overall, what they'd like to see happen on that property. And at that time, you basically told them, well, they can go through the regular variance procedure because they would be asking for a length extension of what the normal cul-de-sac would be. And so that's what they decided to do. It basically, I can't, from a staff perspective, it doesn't meet any of our ordinance, but you guys have that ability to give that variance if you choose to. And that's what they put together, was the whole, what they would like to do and where they would like to go with it, based on what I would say based on what the engineer felt was the best, way to lay out the property and kind of how it would work. There's lots of different documents in here. I'm not even going to attempt to open all of them unless there's a specific one you want me to open. They were all attached to your guys' staff report. And then I don't know, Al, do you want to give any other detail or information or landowner or anything?
I'd just like to reiterate my September 14th letter, if the commissioners want to look at that, and just reiterate those things and ask questions. I'll just come up, okay?
Yep.
That's okay.
I'm trying to get it open here now. I think this is the right one. Go ahead and start. We'll see. It'll open sooner or
Okay.
later.
Yeah,
There we go.
I think I've mentioned these things in our previous meeting. The September 14th letter talks about requests based on hardship. And I guess I wanted my point is that the property is sort of narrow, and with 10-acre lots versus 2-acre lots makes a big difference. If there's 2-acre lots, we could develop a circular road network that would loop around. With 10-acre lots, it's kind of hard to make them 10 acres or average of 10 acres and then get a road that doesn't double back on itself, essentially, you know. I think that's a hardship. And I'm not sure, I wasn't able to attend the planning and zoning meeting. I was on vacation. I missed that, so I didn't hear any comments of that. But I'd like to kind of either bring that up or ask questions as to the difference of opinion on that. Property long and narrow, making a loop is sort of difficult. This is kind of undeveloped territory. There's a section line along the east side of the property, which is not developed. I think it's still open from the county's point of view, but it just is overrunning terrain. So in a sense, we have to make a feasible road, whether it's for anybody's use, it has to, we're putting it to the west of the section line. And it's sort of like equivalent to the section line in my mind. It traverses some of the same path and actually does connect to the section line back up where it can. And if you want to pull this map up, Amber, you know, the section line is on the east side. We have a road that roughly parallels it for 2/3 of the way, and then it does connect back to the section line where it's possible.
Which map is that you submitted?
It's basically lot layout plan, sheet one.
The aerial or the?
Just let's look
the
at
second
configuration. The first one, Amber. So, you know, we can improve the section line, but it's mountainous and rugged there, and that would open up that road to future extensions to the north and to the east and west, etc. So the terrain does have effect on that. If this isn't approved, I'm going to maybe come back to planning and say, well, how can we use A2 zoning in such a kind of a configuration? You know, it's you know, again, it comes down to the shape of the property and the size of lots and having a continuous loop system. I'll leave it go at that, but I would like to know how we can use A2 zoning in any kind of situation, not just this particular one. What is the A2 zoning? If it's difficult to employ, or how would you actually use that kind of zoning?
So it's a discussion for another day.
It is, exactly. So, and then we are offering to do a wider road. I heard one comment already that a wider road is actually safer than a shorter road as far as length goes. But yeah, that's, we're trying to offer the county and the fire department something, and the road service people something to equate to the long dead end road. So, anything else, Janelle, that I haven't covered? JC?
Hello. Do I need to okay, stand up?
Well,
you can have my chair.
Name and address.
Name and address. Janelle Carr, 231 South Hefner Road, Rosette, Wyoming, 82727. I just wanted to point out that a single road, I mean, our vision for this property is rural. We want it to be ranchettes, a rural place. We don't want it to have the curb and gutter feel. I know that I mean, there are ordinances you have to follow, but our vision for this is to preserve the rural feel of the property as it is. So anyway, I think this road system helps us get there, but I do realize that there are ordinances and rules and all that, but the curb and gutter feel is not where we're gonna go with this. So anyway, anything else to add, Jason?
No, I agree. That's pretty much.
Okay, we'll offer it to the for public comment as you know, we If you stand for comment for or against, please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in the body of the room that would like to comment for or against this variance? Okay, seeing that, we will close the public hearing and offer to this board. Commissioner Flanagan.
I need a clarification from Amber and from Bruce. How did we get to the regular variance process for this type of variance? I mean, I can see it by some stretch. We've never done a variance for a road like this ever. So
Nope.
I'm very confused because
This is
it
how,
would seem the criteria to do a variance for this particular application are not the same kind of requirements that we would have for a setback variance or a normal variance that we would have.
so in our subdivision ordinance, it says that they can, in the subdivision, so not zoning, in the subdivision ordinance, it says they can ask the commission for a variance. But because we didn't have a process with it, Bruce felt it was best to follow the normal process with a public hearing.
Because
But it
what we've
does
done
say
in
they
the
can ask
past is
for
they
it.
come in with their development and their road profiles, and at that time they ask for a variance based on certain criteria.
You
Normally,
guys had asked for them to go through this. So at the meeting, they did that. They gave you the stuff. And
Okay.
I think it was
I'm not
you,
sure that variance,
Randy, was the
did
one
you
that
mean this
said,
kind of variance?
you
if
were
that's-
the one that had recommended they go through the actual variance.
And the reason I bring this
procedure.
up is this is a very different criteria from the other variance on a road distance that we would require. This is a much stricter application of variance than what I would apply to this. So I'm having a lot of difficulty. If we go this variance, I can't vote for it at all. If we do the other variance, I can see exceptions that I could apply to that, but not to this. And so I just wanted to clarify that ahead of time.
You know, I think if the term variance was used in urban meeting, it was a term of a process to have the exception and the variance in place. Normally, we don't see such a large request from 3,800 feet, 800 feet to 3,800 feet is significant. And I think so we're in some new uncharted waters here. But in my mind, this would qualify as a different zoning district too, PUD zoning district, that you could take care of all these variances at once. Might have been a better tool, but I'm not the client with the applicant. But I'm with you. It's really hard to approve anything here with this large exception when there's other alternatives possibly out there. And I agree with the tool. I don't have a problem with the tool. This is a place to start because as the applicant, you need some assurance. Do you spend all the money on design and everything with no surety that you're going to be successful? And where's that break point? So this is a tool they can use to get that assurance, to spend the time, money, and effort to do the detail that's needed for the exceptions. So, but I struggle with the process too because this is new to us.
I'm trying to open it. It's actually not. It's a variance under the subdivision ordinance, but it's the same process as what you would see normally.
Supermajority?
Yeah,
The same
Yes,
criteria?
Same.
Yep.
for
Then
the
it's
most part,
the same. I mean, because there's the hardship is it costs too much is not a hardship under any circumstances. So if that's the case, that's a basis you can never approve of.
So, yeah, so how do we get here? I think Amber is correct, is that subdivision ordinance contemplates a variance like this. It doesn't reference necessarily what procedure do you follow. So in that absence, we adopted the same variance procedure. And so I'm left to conclude that, yes, the same requirements would apply here.
And if I might, and like I say, I don't see a case for a variance. I don't see a hardship for size or anything else. And we can have a discussion on A2 zoning because I think I was probably the one that suggested that back about 2005 and then plugged it in. Went through planning and zoning and plugged it in. But I mean, in my mind, a construction variance on this would be it's wide open. There's not a lot of trees on this. It's mellow. It's not crazy steep grades. The cul-de-sac design was really fire mitigation, ingress and egress, and that would be my struggle with that, especially that long. That's a huge exception. But at least I could get wrap my mind around it from a different type of perspective. I still think a loop road in there is probably the best. It breaks up that ground kind of strange, I think, but I don't know that I see a way to get away from some kind of a loop or an egress through another property.
Well, I might have more, more open-minded if a alternative escape route was proposed. It wouldn't have to be a full-blown road, something like that. But that could be done at the subdivision or the plat application procedure.
So
But,
this is in the subdivision ordinance, which is where we came to this. So it
you
says that
you
guys.
put that in the packet.
I thought I did.
Yeah, I saw.
But it results in an undue hardship to the developer or applicant, which is what they're asking for, is they're saying it's a hardship. The county commission may not by variant permit subdivision if it's dealing with FEMA stuff. The county commission shall review the following criteria, which is similar when granting the variance. Cannot be detrimental to the public health safety, the physical surrounding shape, topographic conditions of the specific property involved. An undue hardship to the owner would result in the strict letter of the title. Substantial increase in public costs. Variance would not in any manner place the subdivision in non-conformance with the comp plan, which I don't think it does. And then procedure-wise, it just says they have to provide a written statement, which is what his letter was. That's what we determined. And then we have to hold a public hearing. So that's what we're doing.
That's a little different than the statutory.
It is a little bit
And I
different,
don't-
yeah. We just didn't have the detail with the procedure. So Bruce said, let's just treat it the same as we normally would, which is have the public hearing.
Those are the considerations that you should use for this type of variance. Then the procedure is the one that we're adopting from the other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
because I don't have that, I don't see it on the drive anywhere,
No,
because that changes several things.
So, yeah, those are the considerations that apply in this circumstance. Yes.
It's right there in the staff report, the second page. I just copied and pasted bottom of the second where it says subdivision regulation variance of the staff report.
Yes.
That's the condition or the considerations would be, I would say, number 2.
Mr. Schreier, is there any possibility of a so-called escape route out of the top of the property that could be accomplished there?
It would require negotiation with another owner. And there is a section line accessible to us around the border of a section line. I was going to say, and I got the floor, I'm going to run with it. If we're talking about procedure here, which is fine, and I respect the county's process there, I want to get back to B. I made my case in B. If I want to get back to that, I'd be glad to talk about that some more. But now that we have that in front of us, part B, and then back to what you're saying, possibly, I hate to offer anything because we haven't broached that with anybody surrounding properties, although there's been a little bit of discussion with the owner to the east that they want to continue. That's possible, and that would give us, it doesn't go anywhere to the east just yet. It doesn't connect anywhere further east that I know of without some major road grading. There's a fire trail through the property already for logging, goes up quite extensively to the east and north. That could be a possible thing that we could bring back to you and say, yeah, we found a way out, and it's some kind of drivable way out. Okay.
Can you go back, Amber, to this map?
And then Brandon talked about the A2 zoning. Again, that's for another day probably, but I am in the PUD issue perked my ears up. If that's some way that we can move forward with going to a PUD instead of the zoning.
Layout with here.
Okay. Commissioner Diver, did you guess?
Yeah, I had a comment if this comes up on the screen.
Get Bruce's whole computer a comment there.
I think it's just the system started snowing.
So, Amber, while we're waiting, what was planning and zoning's recommendation?
Recommended denial. Basically, they didn't see the hardship. They felt that it was not a hardship because we have had other properties A2 zoned that have been able to meet the regulation. I think would you agree? It was
Yeah,
denied.
I don't know. It wasn't unanimous, was it?
I think, no, it wasn't. No, it was not. You're right.
Well, to me, where you have an opportunity with the lateral road that goes north-south to hook into an existing trail that weaves its way out to the highway. It's right here, there's a trail.
Oh,
And so that might
You see
be,
it quite right.
to do an
it's right
internal.
there. Right there, there's a trail.
Yep,
Goes down.
yep, we,
So I think if you came in with a preliminary plat, showed that you were improving that trail as an alternate escape route, it might be palatable to have that exception, because then your cul-de-sac only goes to those rear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots, and then you've got a driveway from that one remote lot. But that might be a way to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, and that would be an exception rather than variance. So I think they have some other tools here that might work for this. And that's a 2-track, it looks like to me, and it's improved in some areas, but in other, according to their photography, it also loops where your yellow line is there, loops back into the primary road, which only gives you one exit. But I think there's some opportunity there in the trail system.
Just to go back, I looked up the minutes. It was motion to deny, roll call vote, which was Fuller, Tisdale, Shank, TJ Ewing, and then Ewing, the other Ewing, Bob and Mike Whalen were against that. They were nay.
You
So it
understand
was
what I'm
a,
Okay,
I think so.
at this point, I want to just ask the applicant if, I'm going to just tell you, it doesn't look good the way it's sitting for any passage of this today. Would you like to go back to work on this a little more and maybe take into consideration some of the comments and thoughts that have been offered here?
Mr. Chairman,
Um,
has the public hearing been closed?
Yes.
yeah.
So if we're contemplating continuing it, I would caution you because you're probably going to bring new information up and that the public then wouldn't have the opportunity to consider and comment on. So if you're going to do that, I would suggest we probably have to renotice it again if that is what they decide to do.
Which is not a huge problem. Right.
So with 4 of us, what's the super majority?
3.
Okay, and so if this is denied, they still have an alternative to go through the subdivision ordinance, come in for exception.
Well, they could do another variance request, I suppose, too, and propose something.
Well, yeah,
different.
nothing precludes them from doing anything in 12 months. It's not like a change of zoning denial.
No, they can do it
Yeah.
whenever. I guess I would just,
I'm just trying to get a read if to go forward, if a PUD is more applicable or stick with the zoning.
the zoning shouldn't matter.
The PUD zoning district would be really hard to swallow in this area unless you kept the same density in your PUD agreements. You're not gaining much, it's just a tool, but it is an option. I would really struggle with making this higher density because of its location, so I don't think that's a good option, but it is an option. I think some alternatives to the design might find a creative solution. So if it's denied today, you can come back and give due notice just like we did. You're not really losing anything.
Well, I guess I need to clarify for my purposes, because there's a big difference between an exception that's less than 200 feet for a short distance versus this. That's why we differentiate.
1,000 versus 800 feet is not 800 versus 3,500. I mean, that, you're talking about 20%, 25%. I'm going to make the motion to deny, and I'm going to say I like Commissioner Divert's do the one primary road in and then just improve that trail on the way out. So at least there's that kind of.
You say
there's
not a full blown 24-foot road.
No, if you do a good solid road all the way through and then you come back and you've got a year-round passable, road surface, it doesn't have to be county spec on that other side. I can live with that, I think, because it's open terrain. You're not going to worry about emergency vehicles and some other items like that. It could be fire, but not, you're not caught in the trees. That's what I have in my mind, but I'll make the motion to deny. Based on condition B of the variance, I can't see the hardship in terrain, exceptions to terrain. There's whatever condition B was specifically.
We got a motion and a second for the discussion. Bruce.
Mr. Chairman, Brandon, is the emergency access road you're proposing on a section line? That poses
No, it is not.
It's the yellow.
Okay.
It essentially makes a loop. It's just you have a primary road and then you have a smaller secondary road that doesn't necessarily have to be built for county spec. And that's me thinking out loud. That's not part of my.
So you eliminate this road, make it a driveway, and spend that money on this escape route. something as simple as that.
Okay, so I have a question.
Is it on denying the variance or the next
Or
part?
procedure.
Okay,
Because we've got a motion and a
yeah,
second on
that's
the
fine.
table
I'll
there.
ask the question.
Any
again.
further discussion on the motion before us? All right, seeing none, better do a roll call, and all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
That's not roll call.
It's like roll call, only different aye.
Seibert?
Aye.
Sleep?
Aye.
Dewey?
No. All right, well, it's
3-2,
3-1.
3-1.
the variance was denied, so I guess you know where you gotta go from here, sir. And the applicants.
Well, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, so I hear two different things here. Because it changes the procedure in our office. If they're just moving forward with a preliminary plat and you're just gonna do an exception, they don't need to come back for a variance.
They would ask for
Or-
exceptions, specific exceptions to the road.
So you want them to follow normal, not this process is what I'm getting at.
Correct.
You're saying as long as it's within reason, couple hundred feet, couple 300 feet, whatever, we're not gonna make them follow the variance procedure. You're comfortable with an exception, because there's a difference.
Okay, so let's look at an example. Whitewood Forest Acres 1 and 2. That the high cul-de-sac is almost a mile from Fulton Street. When that came through in 1997, 1998, we didn't have a fire plan like we had today, but they had an emergency escape route that went across the other 1,500 acres and they could show where it was. And it was a gravel-based road, and it came out at Oak Park.
Two bits that way.
And
There's
two
about
bits that
7.
way too. So those are very similar to this, and the solution was worked out during the preliminary plat process. And so I think there's an opportunity from the preliminary plat process to be successful without spending a huge amount of money. Just come in with a theory, maybe a new layout plan, even a layout plan that talks about those alternatives, those creative ideas, and then move to the preliminary plat. I don't know, but that's the procedure that can be used. We do it with grades all the time of 12 to 14%. We approve those. So I think the tools are there. Whether it's successful or not is yet to be seen, but I think those tools are a lot easier than having public meetings like this when we can discuss in planning and subdivision ordinance. That's what I see. Is that what you were saying?
I agree, especially this one. I can just see that, basically have an internal, instead of it being a full-blown loop, have your main primary big long, essentially cul-de-sac would be the main road. But you got a secondary road that can be used as public, or public internal to the subdivision. I'm not sure how you want
Okay,
to
we need to come back in as county commissioners.
And you could do the 24-foot rather than the 30 and spend the money on the escape route as an example. Move to adjourn as Board of Adjustment and reconvene as county commission.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All those in favor of the motion would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right. The next one is public hearing, so we can go on with the members. Powerhouse Pass development agreements. Yeah, go ahead and take a 5-minute break.
And just so you know, with that, I'm leaning towards it not being something staff's gonna give, because they can't meet the recommendations, so I'll probably just do a straight up denial. Because everything they're presenting meets nothing in our ordinance,
And
distance wise or anything, so it's like kind of a waste of time to go through planning and zoning, and so I'm probably just gonna fast track it and say, just go directly to the commission. Because P and Z has already told them no,
sure.
on exactly what you
Yeah,
guys
but
talked
they
about.
didn't
said
have
no.
any in their submittals talking about that escape route.
I remember that. Well,
They did
not
actually, the last
external,
meeting,
But not in the submittals, in the package I had, it wasn't.
the first one, when they were here a
Right,
month
but it
ago.
wasn't in the variance.
I thought they suggested the exact same thing we're talking about. When they do that, they develop a big road main heavier than the secondary little loop to a lesser extent.
And they don't, the
We haven't
problem
done
is, I'm probably gonna get another layout.
It's coming up.
Because what they're doing is they.
10:30.
To do it.
So we have.
Sure.
Because they think it's gonna get denied.
Right.
Which I think would be fine. They could do an alternative layout instead of this. Couldn't they just do because the layout plan's $100 versus full
Oh, sure.
Don't it?
The thing,
Do that?
yeah, I mean, as long as they don't have any grades over the required grades and on the other roads.
If they just came in and said, here's the new layout,
Yeah.
this is the, just because it's saving them money before they go to full.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
season waste.
Well, up in our area, a lot of the little places close Monday.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see, but I might suggest that versus $700 for a preliminary when they're not quite there yet.
Because I mean, at one time they had this, and I think there was discussion
They had a loop.
of whether to do a full loop or to do it more as.
But I see what you mean. If you do the main road coming in, they could do their wider road.
This is their
like
primary
this,
road, they just have it as, I mean, as a trail.
and then have a
Named or otherwise, as long as
14.
it's internal access, or it's gravel, you can drive
So
on it.
could we use it like if I gave them the driveway requirements, it's like 12 feet or 14, I don't remember what the,
Of driving lane,
of driving surface? Would that be,
maybe with turnouts,
okay?
every periodically, because they, you know, again, as long as they can plow down it in the winter time when they can drive on it, that seems fine to me, because then you do have internal egress.
Okay.
And actually better than some of those other stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is internally remain open.
And there's some spots that it naturally comes out anyways,
Right,
so.
that would be good.
You guys are making my brain hurt today.
I don't know that.
So, hopefully somebody from Firehouse Pass will be here. You're here?
That might be it.
You might be it, okay. I thought Bruce thought John Frederickson would be here, but maybe not.
I thought, my understanding, the public hearing got moved.
Oh, for the CID it did, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
That
right.
would be with John Frederick.
Okay. Okay.
The other items on the agenda are the FDA's MOA, which there may or may not mean.
Oh, yeah, I should have.
Is that what, I just was making sure. So
Yeah, that
I
was a
lost.
lot more.
Yeah, I kind of got the story yesterday, yeah. Okay.
Is that my agenda over there, Bruce? No, I lost it. I stuck it in a folder somewhere. I didn't do that.
It's the same one.
So you're back on schedule. You didn't have to do that one.
There it is.
Cross
Found
your
it.
fingers.
You had it all planned out, right?
Yeah, don't jinx us.
Yeah, we'll run on.
That's what happened to the Yankees.
Exactly. We got this.
Glad to
Okay,
see them
so
back.
Yeah.
this one, you guys moved that one already, right, the 9:45, so I don't have to talk about it. Okay, so
No,
I'll
we're
get that
at
off
10 o'clock.
my. Okay, we'll see if I can wrap my head around all this. I don't even know if I can get these all to come up. I'm not gonna lie.
We got it.
Yeah, I tried to make paper copies on this, because there was so much. but-
Well, I went to Kansas and grabbed one, and I made some.
That particular issue.
I had the advantage. I can fly. Big stuff.
This is for you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Wait till I'm up there, because Janet's not here.
Oh.
So she told me you were gonna be coming in and showed me a little bit, so.
Well, you-
You're gonna expand the little one into big one?
Well, I tried to, for clarity,
Only eyes.
my old eyes.
There's lots.
Oh,
I left my phone in my truck, so I don't have 5 minutes.
Well, you know, I
I'm sure you
always
did.
tried to, but I forgot it.
In detail. That's about 3 different things. So we're gonna talk about all of it.
Yeah. That's
But
true.
it's not all
I would be
one.
down.
I know, not all of
Are
it.
you out? Where's my cat? He wants in, he wants out. He wants in, he wants out.
Diver?
Diaper.
Does
Trying
that
to decide
actually surprise you?
which is gonna be the best way to deal with all of these.
Put this in my door, would you please? Thank you.
I think I'm just gonna talk about all of them together. It's gonna be easy. And then we'll. You ready, Rob? You want me to
Yes, we
start?
are.
Okay.
Does Bruce need to be here?
Maybe.
Well, where'd he go?
I don't know. You can't keep him unless you have a Pepsi.
All right, go ahead and
Keep a
start.
Pepsi here.
You may start. We're back in session.
Okay. Sure. Just have a Pepsi and you can get a big one.
Let's roll.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about all of it. I'm not even gonna attempt to bring them up because it's not working. So, you guys all have copies in your packets. So if you remember 2-3 months ago, I shared with you my frustration with Powderhouse Pass. Since then, they have reorganized and listened to my frustrations. And we've spent a lot of the last couple months. I've gone up and down on sites. I've met with a few people, Joel Dykstra, I don't know, a number of different people. We're trying to get everybody on the same page. And basically what we came to the conclusion is what's happening is the surveyor would submit a plat, and then we'd have this plat, we'd work the plat, and by the time we got to the end, it was like, well, wait a minute, there's no bonding, there's no development agreement, the fire plan stuff, because he wasn't doing any of that. AE2S was doing that, but he wasn't submitting stuff to AE2S. So there was a disconnect on how it was coming into our office. Because of all that, we were able to determine going into the new development or memorandum of agreement and bonding phase, which we normally do here. We start usually in October, and then by April, May, we kind of have the new bonding for the following year. As part of that process, they really delve down to see where are we at, what do we need to do, how are we going forward going into that new bonding. So we're a little sooner than we would normally be with the bonding process, but we felt because we were trying to reorganize all of this and make sure everything was coming together, it was better to do it all at once. So you guys have a new memorandum of agreement which covers the remainder of 2022 and all of 2023. So you have a new memorandum of agreement which has all of your engineer's estimates broken down, and if you look at the top, it's per phase for me. So now I can tell, okay, we're in phase 2 with this stuff, we're in phase 3 with this, phase 4, phase 5, it's all broken out. So we did that, which has helped tremendously because that helps us keep track of, okay, we're done with, let's say, Southridge Estates. Now we can move on to the next one. So that's what you see with the new memorandum of agreement. And Bruce felt that it was time to do a new memorandum. We haven't done one since 2014 because they just kept, you guys basically just kept transferring it to the next round. So he felt it was time to go ahead and do some updated paperwork as well with it. The bank is fine with that. We got the new letter of credit, which is here. I have the original, so I'm giving that to you. The original, which will pull us all the way into 2023. So it's the whole next year and a half, basically. So that's that part. Then on top of that, what we determined, and we were really struggling with, is each phase, according to the and to how the PUD was approved, is supposed to have a fight. So you have your overall development agreement, which we did back in 2006 or 7. And then each phase is supposed to have an individual development agreement specific to what's happening in that phase. We skipped an agreement. So that's what you see here is you have the final development agreement for phase 3, which we're actually already platting, but we missed that agreement. So we're going back and fixing that. And then phase 4A and 6A are the 2 plats that you guys, we've kind of gone rounds on with, like the Auburn Acres came in and I recommended denial because they didn't have all the stuff. So that's what you see with 4A and 6A. 6A is the Southridge Estates, which is the septic systems. If you remember, there's that piece that we allowed the bigger lots. And so that's in there. We have a development agreement for that now. So we've gone back and been able to actually organize all of those phases. And now what has happened is if we get a plat directly from Lauren, Ron gets an email that says we got this plat. Ron is with AE2S. He kicks it out and says don't accept it. I have not reviewed it for development purposes. So your water, your sewer, your lines, whatever's going on in that development. And we're slowly working through that. We had it happen this month. We let Ron know right away and he got us what we needed. But basically, if it doesn't come from AE2S as one submittal, so it's going to have their road stuff, their sewer stuff, their plat, their, whatever it needed, fire plan, then we aren't putting it on the agenda anymore. It can't come just from the surveyor. And that has helped. So it did help this month by getting that process in place. And then Ron is also submitting, as part of that submittal when it comes in, there's a checklist that says, here's the summary on where the water is, where the sewer is, whatever's going on. So this, all of this stuff helps us get caught up to that point. And now each item, it says right on it what phase it's in. So if we get a plat, it says phase 3. So I can go back to phase 3 and say, okay, this is what we have. So we're getting there. It's taken some time, but I think we're to a point that we need to get these in place so we can start working on the platting going into 2023. That's the overall big scheme. I don't have any plats for you, but I will.
So you're happy?
I am. It took a while to get here. They didn't like not getting denials on plats for 3 months.
Upon review of the Dalton agreement and the letter of credit, Mr. Outco, were there any outstanding items? Nope. I would move to approve as presented, both items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Amber?
We need to do each development agreement too, individually, I think.
And all I have is a memorandum.
Nope.
It has all attached.
All of your stuff is 2, 3,
Phase
3, 4, and
4A,
6. It was all in the drive and out there.
Make a motion to approve phase 3, final development agreement.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to approve phase 4A, final development agreement.
Second.
Okay, with a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to pass phase 6A, final development agreement.
Second.
Motion and second for approval. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Question.
Okay.
Was it clear that my bond improvement included phase 2, 4A, 6A bonding line of credit?
That's what it
Amber
says
said
here, yes.
All right.
All right.
That's what I thought it was
Signatures?
too.
Are we happy again?
I am happy again.
And to follow up, you're just asking for one point of contact.
Yes, and Ron is now it, which has helped my life
It
tremendously.
seems to me that if Ron talked to the subconsultants, you wouldn't even see this stuff.
Correct.
And
Yep,
and
and
may
we're
I
getting
say,
there.
Amber, you've made my life better
Good.
because of your stance. I just will say that.
And then
It's helped me help them.
I
If
can,
that means anything.
wait, you're not done yet.
Not on China Crossing or on?
No, we
on,
need you to sign some stuff.
Randy, Greg will be available at the end of the meeting to come up. Sounds like he's got a meeting in his office.
Yeah, if he gets the opportunity.
He knows.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't have my phone to take.
We just need to notarize his signature. Can I do that? Yeah. Okay. I'll get the copies from you after we're done. And then what about, you know what, I gave you that letter of credit. Do we got it? I don't think we got it also, do we? I think that's just a bank thing. Okay, thank you. There's that one.
Now we're caught.
Now we're caught.
Okay, next item is Sharon Crossing.
I didn't give another letter of credit in there yet.
What?
Spearfish Mountain Estates. Do you want to do, we can do either. They're both here.
Well, it's
Is it on the order? Okay, Shine Crossing.
just trying to do it in order.
You're good. Let me just do mine here.
Catch it all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you're going to the Cheyenne Crossing item, I just need to state that I have spoken to the Wolves next door about 2 years ago about consulting on their property. Just want the public to know that.
Okay, you're not recusing yourself.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're just getting there.
Wolf
not-
on the planning of their property.
Is that to the north across the road?
It's across behind them.
Straight across the creek.
Right behind.
Wiki up.
Oh.
Don't see it. No, okay. Okay. So, no, he's not here. That's why you guys got the letter instead. So this is basically where we're at with this. If you remember, I had come to you guys a while ago where Cheyenne Crossing was at that time looking at trying to do some dormitory stuff. That is now out of the question. They've pulled that out, so we don't have to worry about that. In the meantime, I think everybody's heard they had a fire out there. The back, basically the kitchen is done. They need to redo it. So we started working with them on the process of getting that done. With that, I went out, I took pictures. The whole back of the building needs to be redone, so they're doing that. As part of the process, they submitted plans that would show a basement, so digging down the basement. So we double checked with Helene Eddy, who's done the work on the floodplain. Where they want to put the basement is fine. It's not affecting the floodplain. They're still elevated high enough. There's no issue there. And then also as part of that, my suggestion is the only way I would issue a building permit is if they can prove they're outside the easement with any of their new construction. And they have actual parking spaces, and we would have a parking plan provided by, usually either an engineer or an architect can do it based off of our ordinances. So that's what we see here. I did request a full site plan. And it shows existing structures, parking areas, parking spots, the extension of the building, which is back here. Everything else, the existing structure is still there. The extension is this piece back here. They showed the access easement coming in this way. And here's the building. I basically said you have to stay out of the easement. I mean, there's no setback from a private easement, but you gotta stay out of the easement. That's what they did here. Parking wise, this is their designated spots. They added these ones over here. This was the original location of the proposed dormitory addition, was kind of over in this corner here. And then they did discuss adding a second story on top of the existing building to put the dormitories right there, or not the existing, the new portion to go up. But as they started down that route, we did have City of Spearfish, Tom Paisley started reviewing these plans, which we've had him do in the past because of the commercial nature of it. And there was a lot involved with having that residential portion on top of the kitchen. There was just a lot there that they decided it just wasn't worth it at this time. So they opted not to go that route. So I think this meets our requirements of what I would request for it's sort of a development plan, but not really, because they're not really changing the use. It's still a kitchen, which is what was there. But I asked them to at least bring it up to date so they could prove, location wise for the building and the parking. And then parking wise, they did provide you plans. And we would not issue the building permit because there was some things with the kitchen that they're still working on with Tom Paisley. So we won't issue an actual building permit until we have the approved plans for the fire safety. They had to, I believe, provide, because they have to put a new hood and all of that stuff in, it kind of changes the requirements. Bob knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
So
get your checkbook out, Dave.
they're there. And then this,
26,000.
Yep.
Got it already.
This is what they received from what I received. I've been talking with Mark Aspis. He's a retired architect, but he looked at our regulations. I came up with an estimate based on just straight facility wise, and it's kind of hard because a lot of that space is, it's like retail space, and there's the kitchen area, and then there's the actual seating. You can break it down. So he looked at our section D, which is, we do have a section for commercial property that's a combined facility. So that's what he used. He came up with 36 stalls. I came up with 46, but I wasn't basing it off of the combined facility requirements. I trust his professionalism to be able to determine that. They have enough spaces. Now, as always, we've always brought this up. Everybody knows 36 spaces is not going to be enough spaces for the overall. That's an ongoing issue out there. Some days it's fine, some days it's not. Weekends, not normally. It's going to be a constant problem, and that's the concern. Now, they do have access to what I would consider the lower property that they can have excess parking in during summer months, not so much during other times. But my concern with that lower parking is it is in the floodplain. So I can't always count on it. For the most part, I think it's open. you know, for the most part. But we are constantly having issues out there with parking on the highway, blocking entrances. It's really hard because people have the trailers now, you know, so they've been parking in kind of that DOT turnoff area and then they walk down. It's going to continue to be a problem, but I don't know how much of that is a problem of Cheyenne Crossing. You know, I don't know how to control that. But that's kind of where it's at. And then, so what I'm looking for here is one, that you are in agreement with the site plan that was submitted so that we can move forward with a building permit on the backside. And in the past, you guys have allowed a no payment on a fire rebuild on some, like on houses when they burn down and whatever. I didn't know if you wanted to do that here or not. That's your call. I did talk to the landowners about it. Obviously, that's your call. They're aware that it could go either way. The easement issue, Les submitted his concerns, which is the neighboring landowner.
Okay, my question is, does he have a legal documented easement or right to cross Cheyenne Crossing property?
He does. It's on the plat.
He does.
So I'm not going to get involved. I mean, easements get blocked all the time. I'm not going to go out there. I don't think that's something I'm going to deal with. I won't ever. I would ask that the landowners figure it out like we've always done. There's going to be bad blood no matter what. There's not much I can do. The access easement is on the plat. And even on their site plan, they provided where the easement is. It shows it's open. I'm making sure that the building is not in that location, which is what I think I need to do from my perspective. The parking area, there's two of them right here. I think we could question that because those parking areas are in the easement.
There's 4.
So, I mean, in theory, it could be something. Now, where this easement is on this site plan is not where they come in, because this is, you can't come in right here. It's guardrail. So they come in on the corner.
Yeah, I don't know why that was ever drawn that way. You can't go up that hill like that.
It is, the easement is where it is. That's what I have to go with, which is what the site plan shows.
Easement is where it's platted, but
Yes.
that's not actually the way, you can't use the easement as shown.
Correct. But so this, I'm not as concerned about these ones because you can't come in right there. More so it's these two here. If there's a car parked there, in theory, it's blocking the easement. So that's, I don't know, that's my take on it. I don't know what you guys want to do with it. Same with, you know, you come in right here on the corner is where the actual driveway is.
Show me that again where it comes in.
Let's do.
Randy, I think we moved that back in 06.
I think you guys did, and I think so that's why I was
don't recall
questioning
that.
the site plan. I don't know if it's exactly accurate to where your actual easement sits now, from what I can
Used to
tell.
come right in on the corner.
Yep.
And there wasn't a guardrail then anyway. A lot of people came in that way and they didn't mean to. Not good. But we moved that in 06. And then they re-pinned it, and that was even before Les owned the property down there.
Yeah, I showed a change like in 04, 05-ish from what maybe right in there. So that would be my only thing is I don't know if your site plan is totally accurate with where the easement is. Would you agree
Where
with
they
that?
run into it now, where you came in the other day.
Because if you look at this site plan, you see where it's coming out right here. This
Comes out
is
in
your
the corner.
platted easement.
Yeah.
And I would need to determine if that needs to change this way. Or is it where the plat is and you just use the other route? I don't know. But ultimately it comes down to these 2 parking slots. And if you want to comment at all on Les's email that he sent you all.
Hey, gentlemen.
And what are we moving on, or what do you need from us today?
Well, one, are you going to waive his building permit fees because it was due to a fire? We've done that in the past for other structures. And 2, approving the site plan so we can move forward on the rebuild portion, because I need to issue a building permit on it. Um,
Site plan's part of the building permit application.
Yeah, we would use this site plan as part of
We'll
the building
address
permit.
the waiver of the fee first.
The building permit fees.
I personally would be okay with that due to the fact that, you know, they had an unwanted fire that caused this.
Make a motion to that.
Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of waiver of the permit fee will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So then it would be the parking plan portion.
Commissioner
You know, I don't have a problem with approving them so they can get underway, but I'd like to see an amended plan showing the traffic flow into the dominant lots. So we know what's designated as a traffic pattern. And that would include removal maybe of 2 or 3 parking spots on this plan, because what we're approving here is that they could park there.
Correct.
And that's not what we want to approve. So I would approve the process with the amended plan showing the traffic pattern to the dominant lots to the rear.
Okay, gentlemen, you have a something to add to that?
I think my,
In a matter of order, should we wait for a second first on the motion?
Yeah, we probably should. Just a minute.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, now we can have our further discussion. Good, good point.
Amber, is it in that letter that my architect did that the parking stalls required that we figured out was only 23 and a half? You want to read that letter again?
22.25.
So we could take those out and
Yeah.
it won't affect our legal amount that we need.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is an updated site plan, because I don't think where he put the access is correct.
Yeah.
Is my thought. So I think we need to update the site plan to show where the actual legal easement is located.
Mhm.
And then obviously we don't want parking in that easement is what
Right.
we're trying to prove. So I think that's what we need to do. And basically what I've heard is we can go ahead and issue a building permit on the structure. We just need an updated site plan to make sure those parking areas are not in there. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
You know, as a commissioner, we're concerned about health, safety, and welfare. If the access to that property is blocked at any time during, it can't be, because we need to be able to get fire trucks, emergency vehicles, and they have the right to use it. So we need a clarification on that traffic pattern as well as the easement, in my opinion.
Okay, further discussion. Seeing that, Commissioner Dyer, would you restate your motion, please?
I would approve the building permit application and site plan, requesting the amendment to show the traffic patterns into the dominant lots to the rear.
Ken, is that?
Yes.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
For clarification, Amber, what it says, where the building addition is it just slightly larger than the old footprint of what was there?
It
before?
basically, what we decided moves out about,
About 3 feet.
like from the back of the building, it basically goes this way.
Yeah, I was looking at the aerial and it looks like it's pretty much the same
Yeah.
footprint,
Yeah.
pretty close.
It just moves it out and then adds a basement because there's no basement now.
But still meet setbacks.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a 0 setback, so they're
Yeah.
way far away from the.
Okay, next item, Sturbridge Mountain Estates.
Mr. Chairman, I will be not participating in this discussion, but I'm here to offer expertise in the project if needed.
Commissioner Amber, you wanna?
So, this has been going for a while. We had a plat submitted by Spearfish Mountain Ranch Estates. And originally they were gonna try to get all the work done before asking for a final plat. And you guys had motion to approve the preliminary and the final with the condition that they approve everything and or do bonding, basically. They had the option. And originally they were hoping to just have it all done. But in the meantime, roads are done. They're still waiting on a little bit of stuff, which is what this bond is going to cover. They'd like to go ahead and go forward to get the final plat recorded, but because you guys had approved it with those conditions, I can't record it. And so what they're doing is this portion of the bond is just gonna cover the little bit that's left over. And you've got Johnner and Sons, the contracted value. The balance of the contract is in there. And they ended up doing a memorandum of agreement, just like we normally do. So I have that here, and I have the original that we did get it yesterday. And then the booster pump and the backup generator, which is the line items that are listed in the overall. They're ordered and fully paid for, including the installation and setup of said items. The booster pump has an anticipated delivery of February 2023. So it's just taking longer to get everything basically. So that's all here. They have their engineer's estimate. If you guys approve this, it would allow me to record the plat and they could start selling stuff. So that's what I have.
So you need a motion to approve and accept. Are they two separate items? To
I think
approve.
last, you could do the memorandum agreement and the letter of credit at the same time if you want to.
Okay. I will make that motion.
I'll sign on.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, with that, then now the plat is eligible to be recorded.
Okay.
Probably today. Yeah.
Probably not
I would
today.
request
Not today.
I would request that any building permits that are issued up there, that they be notified specifically that there is no water currently. And there may not be water for a while until certain parts that are paid for.
I would assume what
Alright,
we'll do
so-
is do no final occupancy
But you want to
permits.
make sure the contractors and the developers know that.
Okay, we can do that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, in the purchase agreements on the property, it states when the water would be available. So there is-
Anticipated to be available.
The reason for the delay was the booster pump wasn't available until 2023, otherwise it'd be done. There is water in the tank now that we pumped up with this all auxiliary pump, and the lines have been tested and the water will be flushed upon the pump generator. So,
All right.
Finished with that?
Yep.
All right,
So,
Mr. Jeff, we are at 10:30 for public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, if we are ready, if I can set this one up.
Review of the complaint.
Yes,
Mr. Schultz is here.
Yep.
To join us.
they should
Have a seat right here.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Bruce.
By way of quick review, section 2-19.013 of our regulations captions suspension or revocation of conditional use permit. I'll summarize it. If essentially planning and zoning finds at any time that the terms and conditions of a CUP have not been complied with, they shall report this to the permittee and to the county commissioners. And after conducting a public hearing with the permittee or landowner, the permit may be revoked or suspended as applied in the, as I said earlier. And so with that, today is the time and the place set for a public hearing regarding a notice that was issued to Mr. Schulte regarding CUP 469. And it was served on him yesterday. I think he otherwise had notice of it beforehand, but he is perfectly present. We appreciate him being here today. And so for your review, as I referenced, there was a notice of violation of terms and conditions that was provided to Mr. Schulte, and an attached report from planning and zoning, which I think lays out the circumstances here today. I would point out that originally the CUP was approved by, I'm not sure exactly what the date was, by the county commission, but it's referenced in Amber's staff report dated 11/23 of 2021. Specifically, condition 23 talks about a maximum number of accommodations shall be 4 RV sites. When Mr. Shorter was out there, and he can elaborate on this recently, he noticed that I think that there were up to 8 RV sites. And obviously that would be above and beyond the allowed usage. So today is the time and the place set for you to have a discussion with Mr. Schulte to the extent that he wants to address the violations and then decide what, if anything, you need to do. I would defer to Mr. Schroeder if there's any of that.
Do you have questions for me?
Well, it is set up as a public hearing, so we're gonna have to follow that format. I'm gonna allow you, sir, to speak on behalf of this prior to offering it to the public. I guess I have one question right away for you. Are you in compliance right now and down to 4?
I had too many, of course, and my mom and her sister, my sister took theirs back to Montana. They could not stay every now and then. And I've got 2, I own 4 of them. And I've got them for sale right now and sell them fast, you know. I'm way willing to get down to how it's I apologize. What happened to me was, excuse me, sorry. Got this, me and my neighbor, Mike Kondersky, the Muley Hill Lodge. We got this thing set up together where we have people come out to his place and they come fishing at my place and whatnot. And that we had plans on that being pretty good, and it didn't pencil off that way. And I put all my money into this deal and it wasn't working. And then all of a sudden people were needing and I wasn't getting weekend campers either, So in I asked for your forgiveness, I started having people come out there because they needed a place to live. And probably should have done that, I guess. People that work in town and just they needed a place to be.
The ones that you have for sale, are they occupied by people right now?
No. There's 4 occupied.
Okay, Jeff, you want to expound on anything, or should we?
Well, my staff report is pretty self-explanatory, but I'd be glad to go over it. Basically, I was out there looking at, doing an inspection on something else, and as I was coming back down the hill, I first noticed that the addition that was going up, and that's what kind of sparked everything. And I stopped to deal with that, and then kind of went on from there. We got the building permit taken care of, and then we determined that he had too many sites, and kind of went on from there. So I have not been out there since to see any of them gone, so I have to take his word for it, I guess.
Okay, well, let's get the public hearing out of the way. Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak for or against this issue? Seeing none, that we will close the public hearing and offer to this board for further discussion. I guess I have one more quick question. Do you have utilities going to each one of these 8 sites that you did occupy this summer? As far as water and sewer and electricity?
Just electricity.
Okay. Gentlemen? Commissioner Diver.
So are these 4 campers that you own serving as rentals for you?
They stay for they'll stay for a week or a month. Depends on.
But you own the campers, and then they kind of stay in them.
Yeah.
And the other 4 that were removed, 2 were personal, what about the other ones?
Sorry?
You had 4 removed, 2 were family.
Well, yeah, 2 were family, and then there's still 2 more to be gone.
Amber, do you recall on the design of the septic system what it's designed for?
How do I want to go back? So keep in mind, this was one of those that he was in violation when he came in to get the CUP. We caught him renting without having a CUP. So that's how it started. So honestly, what's there, it was there previous. So I can't really say because it was already there. It wouldn't have gone through a normal process. He had 8 at the time. He was only allowed the 4 that were there to begin with. So I guess I can't really answer that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Mr. Chairman, if I can maybe facilitate the discussion, I think your options include doing nothing with if he's in compliance up to and including suspension or revocation of his permit. Some options might be to, if he's willing to, if he wants to have the additional sites, to pursue getting a modification of his conditional use permit, but once until that's granted, he would be left with the existing conditions. Another option may be that a bigger inspection schedule needs to take place every 3 months, every 6 months, or every year. I'm just throwing out some options for you. This is rather unique in my experience that you've dealt with this, so I'm trying to brainstorm some ideas that you might want to use.
Could we, due to the fact we have a meeting next Tuesday, in the interim, could we have Jeff go out and look the property over and then maybe make a decision one way or the other next meeting?
because the public hearing is closed.
Yeah, public hearing is closed.
I think we need to follow up, but I have to state that I don't remember this type of violation on any CUPs we have in the county. And I don't want to be unfair to the CUP holder, but we can't let this go unnoticed, because then what's the incentive? What's to prevent other people from freely doing what they want? So to me, this is a very, very serious issue, and I think the CUP holder understands that. But I do have one more question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The people that are staying in these campers, do they plan on staying during the winter?
I don't know. I don't know. If it gets too cold for them, they'll probably skin out. They can leave on any given day.
Well, I came into the meeting with reading this, wanting to revoke it. I'm a little softer now because
same here.
People's livelihood is
Yeah.
in danger.
Mr. Alka has a question.
If I may finish?
Yep, you may.
So it's very serious to me. That's my point. Thank you.
Yep, and then you.
Troy, if I may, you've heard the concern of the commission. I think you understand the concern as just elucidated by Mr. Dybert. What do you think is an appropriate consequence? What would you offer to the commission? Because again, a CUP is sort of a partnership, isn't it, between you and the county? And so you have to establish that you're a good partner, it would seem, with the county. How can they rely on you to continue to be a good partner?
I would like to have the chance to just run the 4 units, if I could. My neighbors, 3 of them have campgrounds now around me. My neighbor above me has big plans for bringing in, I'm sure I'll talk to you guys first, but to do more, and I would just ask for your list on this if I could, and keep the 4 spots. And I'll come into any kind of compliance.
Commissioner Sleep?
That was my question too. I wondered what would work best for you to comply with the CUP. What do you like to do?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you'd like me to do.
Okay, thank you.
I'll throw my 2 cents out there. I was kind of where Commissioner Dybert was, and I want to speak on behalf of Amber in the office. In my opinion, you started non-conforming, and now there's a violation, so there's 2 strikes. So whatever is decided, the next one will be the last. So,
Well,
and I think there might be some room for discussion with the office, and I think it's a reasonable time. But like I say, I was the same place that he was, ready to revoke. And I think, in fairness, we have to recognize that we've never had one that started out not compliant, that then violated the compliance.
and can you throw in there's 3. He also built a structure that we caught him without a building permit. So that's what started all of this.
Sure.
So we're actually 3 in, and I'm to the point that we are.
I kind of grouped the 2 together, but yeah, I would say the next violation will definitely be the last. Although I would like to see an opportunity to correct it.
Is the board willing to, like I said, have Jeff go out and spend a little bit of time? If you're all right with that, Jeff? And then we'll readdress this next Tuesday.
Mr. Chairman?
Well,
I anticipated that it might be continued, so at present, I have time set aside on your next meeting, well, no, on 11/10, so it's that Thursday meeting at 9:30. That would give a couple of weeks. That could change, that's just what I scheduled.
That's a Tuesday meeting. Or wait a minute.
The 10th is a Thursday.
So what happened?
I'm sorry, no, that's a Thursday, that's your meeting where you're gonna be canvassing. So you meet next Monday, and then this would be that day.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Is there a reason we wouldn't have the inspection done before the meeting on the 1st?
There's no reason, no, that's just when I scheduled it, because I think there's going to be plenty on the agenda for the.
And then, if we continue it, it automatically appears on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we can continue and then continue. And then I'm at a point where I would like to look for some guidance on a probationary period, maybe from council, how we could word that.
Sure.
As a probationary
Sure.
period, because of the track record here. And work on that so that we have a policy that we can follow in the future.
So we would not be able to incorporate, if I may, Mr. Chairman, anything in the ordinance presently, but that's why I brought up the idea of maybe an increased inspection schedule. Instead of yearly, it's every 3 months or something like that, so we catch anything that goes on sooner than later.
And I
We
would
have the
suggest,
prerogative to do that now.
Yes.
and I would suggest that that be signed by the CUP holder when it's presented. So I would move to continue this to our next meeting.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Monday, or is it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 1st.
One second, motion.
I'm not sure what time it'll be that
Motion
day.
and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have
Go ahead.
clarification, if I may. So I just want to clarify because it's going to get brought up by the neighbor, so I want to be able to give him an answer. It says 4 RV sites. Right now, he would have more than 4 RVs sitting on site. So I just want to be able to clarify if he can show us that he owns 2 of them that are not being occupied.
Or
I just-
hooked up.
Is that okay? 1, just to make sure. And 2, I do have some concern because it's supposed to be a rental summer months. I don't think that's occurring. I think there's a chance that it will be multi all year long becoming permanent residences. So I just, for that context, I just want to be specific with however you move forward so we know what, what to expect. So we're not going out there saying, well, you're in violation, but you guys have allowed it. I just want to make sure you have that in the back of your head.
Well,
So
I think-
we're
I think that renewed inspection is gonna give us a picture of what it is today. He can, when Jeff inspects it, he can look at where those 2 RVs are, make sure they're not hooked up, are they in
Okay.
storage? And if they're owned by him, he can have them on his property, he just can't have them hooked up in theory.
Yep.
But I think when we have that, we can make better decisions, but I would say the probationary agreement would address those issues with long-term
You want
trailer park versus.
Update of current condition.
Yes.
Okay.
Verify.
We'll get a
staff.
determination for the ones that are being occupied. Of
Yeah.
who's in them, is it just a weekend, is it a permanent resident?
Right, and then a recommendation from your department on how to move forward with that probation. It gives you the opportunity to have a blank sheet.
Okay,
No,
we've got a
Mr.
motion and a
Chairman,
second.
that's
Looking at the conditions, if I may, it's not obvious to me that there's any limitation to it being seasonally a rental. And I might be missing it, so that might be a condition that you want to clarify.
Yep.
That it is
Well,
for
we
the
can
month.
address
what I
that.
just said.
We can address that after we continue it.
So we will just have a report, we'll go take some photos, some updates compared to where it was to now and have those on the first.
Maybe later in the week. Just a couple days. Get some
Yep.
information.
Mr. Chairman,
Do you have a time? Your date?
well, it's gonna be
November 1st,
next
so
Tuesday.
You need to
I
do
don't
it.
have a time. I can give you a time if you want to wait for me.
I
Yeah,
can,
we better
I can,
vote on this.
I can check it.
Everyone understand the motion? All those
Continue
in
it.
favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Bruce, I can look real quick if you want me to.
And we'll address those issues next Tuesday.
Thanks, Troy. Well, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll
Troy.
come out sometime towards the end of the week.
All right,
We're at November 1st.
items from the public. Do we have anyone in the, oh,
Sorry. Should do some exercises. I've been here for so long. My name is Michelle Jacobs, and I live at 11288 Black Forest Road. I'm the next house right past, on the same side of Lawrence County Search and Rescue. So my 7.77 acres is surrounded by Powerhouse Pass. And I'm also on the board for Black Forest Association, Road Association. We're a road association, not a district. And generally, 90% of the people that live in Black Forest Ranchettes, I'm not part of that subdivision, but I'm part of the road association. But the 90% of the people that live in Black Forest Ranchettes live there full-time, work in the community, work with the state, medical industry, just banking, everything. So at our road association meeting, it was brought up that when does residents ever become commercial. So I sat here listening to all your meetings today with different people with CUPs and stuff that have to get them. 90% of the people in Powerhouse are renting their homes, vacation rentals. They're generating tax dollars, state sales tax. And there's somebody available 24/7 to help them if there was a problem. To me, it's more commercialized, I guess, than residential. And so I was wondering if that could be brought up eventually. I know Powder House was approved years ago, but the last couple of years, we all know it's changed, especially the side-by-side riders. Everything's changed, and maybe there could be some stipulations about the rental industry and maybe how many people need to live there. Another issue I have is Black Forest has an easement, and Black Forest Road Association has for years maintained the road even in front of Lawrence County Search and Rescue. We get gravel every year. McGrath comes in and does all the grading, and we built up a really nice road. And if she could pull up your stuff on Auburn Acres, it looks like they would like to use Black Forest Road as part of their CID. If that's the case, and they come in and pave it, wouldn't they be destroying or property damage to something that already exists? Even though they're owners of it, they can also take part in it, which they haven't did all these years.
Yeah.
They haven't been part, they haven't paid for anything, they haven't plowed anything. We all do it. So then my next question is, if they can come in and pave it, can I, still as a road association, go and put speed bumps on the road? And go ahead and put signs, because we know what's gonna happen when they come up Auburn Acres and on that pavement. They're gonna see a dirt road, and they're gonna think that's forced access, and they're gonna hit it like you wouldn't believe. And there's people that live there. And even in front of my house would be the only beneficial house that would be pavement. That'd be nice for me, right? But see, I have my daughter, her husband, and 3 grandchildren that live down the road. And they come to my house a lot. And I don't need people even hitting them and all that. So I'm just asking you guys to consider this. Every time Powder House comes up, it seems we just keep giving them everything they want, when the plan was so many years ago and things have changed.
Okay, well, we can certainly take all this into consideration, and the correct way would be, if you want to come in and really address these issues, you need to get on the agenda, because this is items from the public where you have the opportunity to speak, but the other side of the issue is not here. So to be fair to everyone involved, this probably should be an agenda item.
So can I ask why it wasn't a public comment from the audience when you guys discussed it earlier?
There wasn't a plat on the agenda today.
No.
So it's only when there's a plat? Because I know you guys discussed Powerhouse, but you didn't take public comment.
Yeah, it wasn't listed as a public hearing.
So I think the answer to the question is that it wasn't scheduled as a public hearing or a public meeting, so the
Right.
commissioners have the discretion just to act on without that. They can always entertain comments, but otherwise, unless it's entitled a public hearing or public meeting, they don't have to.
And I didn't realize that you were here for that particular issue, so I apologize.
It may be beneficial to talk with the folks at Powder House Pass, specifically their
They
engineering
told
and
me that
design.
they can do anything they want because it's a public access
Well,
road, which
they-
they're correct, but then that should mean I can do anything.
Well, technically they can't. They can't pave that without permission of the county, because I believe it's
Actually-
public access.
And there's no permission from county, it's private.
It's on, so the
Black Forest Road is
Black
theirs?
Forest Road up to basically just past her property is on their own land.
Publicly dedicated
It's
on their
publicly
land.
dedicated on their own land.
So yeah, they could.
So
Okay.
they own it. So I think they could pave it. Now they have to keep it open. They can't close off access.
They could pave up to,
But
well,
they
the
can
portion on
pave
their
up to
property.
it. Correct. And that is their intention.
Commissioner David?
Well, a couple things. Typically, as you probably saw, when we have an item on the agenda, if the chairman will acknowledge you, you can speak, so you could have spoken.
I just didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, that's fine. We really appreciate that.
And I apologize. I should have come over and asked you what you were here for, so that you'd be ready. But I'm sorry.
The other thing is, if you were a road district, you'd be a public government body that would have more, maybe.
And we
ability.
chose not to.
Yeah.
And we've made, and like I said, if they paid it, what if we would need to plow to get out to go to work? Because we might be the last people to be plowed. And we plow it and like, say our plow puts a nick in their road. Are we being sued then?
Well, and I think some type of agreement with them is to everybody's best interest.
But we already have one with Golden Reward.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to deal with the CID because the Golden Reward is no longer owner.
Correct.
CID is. So I think that's the place to start. And, you know, the interesting thing about you being a road association rather than a district, we can't enforce speed limits.
Nope, I know, we've had to call the cops before and they can't do nothing.
They can come in
So,
and crimes being committed.
So who does it now? If it's part of the CID, doesn't the Lawrence County Sheriff have to go out there when there's something going on there?
They can go on to their roads because they're an.
So that would be one road they could do that.
Crimes committed in your area.
Right.
But speeding and traffic violations, they can't. And signage, it's not official either. So there's a lot of advantages when you're dealing with a government body next to you and a government body here to be a government body.
So there's nothing to be done then about this road?
Well, during the planning process.
The public easement?
The road outside your property, is handled by the CID on our pass.
It hasn't been, it's going to be once they do Auburn Acres.
So, yeah, and it's out of, technically it's out of our jurisdiction at that point. We help with the design, or we oversee design, the maintenance and the construction. The construction design we oversee, but we don't handle it. They build it, they maintain it.
Correct, but don't I still have some rights since we're on that road? It's public?
I would say you need to get your attorney engaged.
Okay.
That's what I would suggest.
Is there any way to take that road out of their CID?
Once again, I think that's a question for your attorney.
Okay.
Very good questions, very complicated.
Appreciate the question.
Yeah.
We get them quite often.
Sounds great,
All right.
thanks.
Anyone else further from the public have any issues or like to speak to anything? Okay, how about the commissioners? Commissioner Diamond.
Bruce wasn't in the room when we talked about the Black Hills Multiple Use Coalition. We may have 3 attend. Brandon will let you know if we need to do a notice of quorum.
When is the meeting?
Friday at 4.
Will we know soon?
Yes, I'm sure you will. Also, Black Hills Council of Local Government meets this Thursday. If anybody wants to zoom in, there's a Zoom link. But that voting is only done by the one proxy for each member. And then lastly, and most important, is the federal government from the Inflation Reduction Act has set aside millions and millions of dollars for cybersecurity. And I asked Greg to come up today. And I believe the dollars for the state of South Dakota are roughly $14 million over 2 years. And 4 years, thank you. And it's for the money to come to the state, the governor has to fill out paperwork accepting the money. Our governor has not done that, and attempts to have her done that have been unsuccessful. What it means is if it came to the state, there is an administrative fee, and then there's also some of it's available for the state. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, 20% is available for the state, 10% for administration. Is that right?
It's 80, so 80% goes to the local entities, 20% goes to the state, and I think 5% of that is for the administration.
And Dakota State is interested with their computer background and their to administrate it. In Lawrence County, we would apply for a grant for up to about $100,000. That's important. You look how much our tax increase can be in our tax raise, that's a significant portion of it. So we're advocating that the governor accept the money. Has there been any governors that haven't accepted it in the lower 48? You know? Ours is the only state. So we have one state that hasn't accepted this money. I've spoken to the governor's senior advisor, chief senior advisor. Her comment was there's not enough there to worry about. So I immediately responded how important it is for the counties, especially the small counties. It's a grant program. And then I spoke to our campaign manager, who also, our campaign staff, that also didn't think it was enough. So we're taking some other avenues to ask the governor to do this, but I would like this board to consider sending a letter to the government of Lawrence County saying we support those funds. We'd like the state to sign up for that grant program. And I would offer that maybe Greg and Bruce would write the letter and we can consider it at our meeting on Tuesday.
Okay.
I'll also caveat that my understanding, the municipal league is wondering how we can get these funds released. I know that Greg has talked to them. I have talked to the chairman of the County Commission Association, and he's been neutral on it. But we got to break this loose somehow, because the deadline is November 15th, and there's a process before that date. So if it's okay with this board, I would have that letter on our agenda for our next meeting.
Yes.
I would have to have Craig help me. Absolutely.
Is there any of our congressional group we can send to that would matter to say, can we have the state entity administer it and then we can run it the other way? I hate to do an end run, but if our governor's going to sit on our thumbs or not do anything.
I think we could send it to the governor and CC it to multiple people. Our congressionals, maybe leadership in the Senate and the House. We could send it to the Attorney General's office, because this is an enforcement issue. And we're attempting to contact that group now, and the AG-elect as well. So any of those people, I think the more the merrier. And we should CC it to the County Association and the Municipal League.
Okay, is everybody in agreement with that? Commissioner Slate.
Greg, can you brief us? Yes, I have a packet too.
So, yeah, each, the monies, and I'll just give you a run. It's a $14 million. The $14 million is an estimate for the full program. But for the first year would be a total of 2.5, almost 2.6 million for the state of South Dakota. As Commissioner Diver had mentioned, the breakdown is really intended to assist the local government entities. That's what it's really for. There is a match, just as there is with all grants. There's a match, and the match is broken down by year. So the first year, if you're one of the grant applicants and you're awarded a grant, there's a 10% match to the entity. Second year is 20%, third year is 30%, fourth year is 40%. Which, with my experience with grants, usually you have a 50% match. That's pretty typical. So the grant is pretty reasonable as far as that's concerned. They're really capitalize on letting local entities take advantage of this to bolster their cyber programs, because it's a weak area. The smaller the entity, the weaker the program. And so this is to help them arm themselves and make them a little bit better protected. So essentially that's what the money's trying to do, is to promote and enable entities to be able to improve their cybersecurity posture. Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Well, I think it's worthwhile writing a document, a letter in support of it. Do we need to have a motion to that effect, or just?
I'll add it to the agenda for next meeting.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Anything else?
Lastly, I was in Oregon at the WIR board meeting, and they moved to form the National Center for Public Lands Counties, and that agency would provide expertise and research on all public lands within counties throughout the United States. More specifically, it would be aligned with PILT counties. And in doing so, they're trying to raise about $10 to $15 million, and their ask will be 1% of the funds we just received through the local government and tribal funds we just received, to the tune of about $800,000. So their ask is going to be for PILT counties to donate some of that back to form this organization. We're supposed to get this slide show and other things that talk about that. But that ask will be coming. It's voluntary. I think there's some good things. I don't know if I want to go for the whole 1%, but that money came directly to counties because of actions by this group that lobbied Congress to bring it to counties rather than other agencies first. You saw that quote in the paper. And they have a pretty strong lobbyist in this organization. So as it moves forward, I'd ask us to consider to support it some way. I think it's a good thing for Phil counties.
You want 1% of 890,000.
Yeah, that'll be
9,000. 89.
Anyway, that's they thought it was an opportunity to take some of that money and apply it to the future.
Okay. Anything else?
What did you think, Randy?
I think it's a really good idea. I just didn't want to. I told them it was tough to get $100. and we're a pretty lucky county compared to some of these. Some of these have 2% private land counties, but they did get a bigger portion. So it's really generated out of Wyoming, Montana, states that have huge amounts of public land. That's all I have.
Motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
adjourn?
Thank you.
Adjourned. Motion to wait for, I think that's what that looked like.